All right, we are back, and we're going to start with our Planning Advisory Commission interviews. Would you like to come up to the table?
Hi.
That way we're not yelling. Yeah, that's never fun.
Hi.
All right. We have some questions that we're going to ask.
Okay.
I like what Commissioner Netherland says, there are no right or wrong answers
Okay.
to the questions. You can always hit the pass button if you'd like. But we're gonna go in order of the questions. Commissioner Netherland, if you'll take one. Commissioner Tarswell, I'm gonna get used to that one pretty soon. If you'll take two, I'll take three, and then we'll just keep in that order. Go for it.
All right, welcome. Hi. So, what do you see as the function of the Planning Commission?
I really see it as a go-between with the community and your office at large. I mean, I would hope that all members of the Planning Advisory Commission have our community's best interests at heart, and most of them have experience in various different branches to give unique outlooks on solving community problems. But I really think that there is an importance with the fact that it's a volunteer position and that they can work in their community and find out what's needed from every branch of the community in a way that kind of gives you all of the information with, like, they're your troops, like they're your people that are going out and working and talking to people to give advice and to help create the better plan for the scope of generations of our community.
Well, I'm going to start with a more basic question.
Okay.
Make sure I have the right person in your name.
Kirsty.
Okay.
My name is Kirsty Rose.
Okay, sorry,
Sorry. I
And
don't
that's okay.
introduce myself either.
I figured that would be good so that we can apply your answers
Yes.
to the right person. Okay. Why do you want to sit on the advisory board?
I've been attending the Planning Advisory Commission meetings for a few months now. I work with Mason County Climate Justice for the Youth Mentorship Program. And while in the meetings, I've kind of realized that there is a disconnect between the Planning Advisory Commission members and how they regard the community. And I believe that I could give some community expertise. And it's my hope that I would be able to kind of help fill that disconnect. Because I've noticed that there have been some people that are disgruntled at meetings, and I kind of wish that there was someone to talk to people afterwards a little bit better and make sure that voices are being heard from all different levels of our community.
Okay.
Great answer. So please describe your familiarity and understanding of the Comprehensive Plan, Growth Management Act, and Development Regulations.
Okay. So it's my understanding that the comprehensive plan has a legal requirement to go through various aspects of the community at large for the next 20 years, and that it's updated every 10 years. And the importance of this position is to look at the environmental impact of our community as well as affordable housing, and providing solutions for groups in our community that otherwise aren't able to access things like affordable housing. There's a lot that the Planning Advisory Commission does that I know that I'm not familiar with every aspect of it, but I do know that I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to grow with it, and I know that my expertise in understanding building and residential and commercial building lends me a unique perspective to that. I'm sorry, could
That's
you
okay,
repeat the
there is no-
last of your
Great.
question?
Remember, there is no right or wrong.
Growth
I got
management.
a little focused on the topic.
Growth management and
Growth
development
management.
regulation.
Growth management and development. Thank you. I recognize that when it comes to planning things like the urban growth area, that there are a lot of things that need to be considered that is a little bit too much for just one person to ever focus on. I think that's the importance of the different branches of different members of the commission, is to make sure that all things are accounted for in regards to planning where zoning can go, and planning what kinds of zoning we can have, or planning, allowances for expansion of our community, and allowing for expansion as safely as possible.
So what is your opinion of rural development?
Rural development. I guess I have a vested interest in that because I personally live in rural residential acreage. But as far as rural development goes for our community, I believe that it's kind of the backbone of our community. I mean, we're a very rural county. And it's important to make sure that our rural areas can be as clean as possible and be as environmentally friendly as possible, and go towards the longevity of being able to expand and build in our community. I believe in keeping our forests as clean as possible, our waterways as clean as possible, practicing ecological measures to regenerate our area. We have primarily logging land in our county, and past logging practices haven't been as healthy as they could be for people that are later going to be living on this land. And I believe in having access to the education needed to protect our rural areas. But I also believe in protecting the economy of our rural areas. Our farmers and our agricultural zones are what builds their community. Those are the people that are providing the food that feeds us, and it's important that we protect them and help them be able to continue their progress.
Okay, the PAC board meets evenings at least once a month on Zoom. Any problems with that?
No.
Okay, do you have any conflicts of interest of county code violations? So any past county code violations?
I don't believe so. Not to my knowledge.
And here's the best part. Do you have any questions for us that would help you to decide what to do, or maybe what should be expected, or what we expect of you?
I guess my question is, as commissioners, what do you wish the Planning Advisory Commission would be? And where do you hope it grows?
It's a good question. I'll take a stab at it first. My goal is to have people that are vested in Mason County, but also know what Mason County can and can't do. So there's a difference between wants and can-dos, or can't-dos. And so what I'm looking for is somebody that can work well with the commission, the PAC, and the Board of County Commissioners, and not, but still have an understanding of what can and can't be done.
It's just from the standpoint of wisdom. Two heads are better than one. Well, that's an expansion of that idea, right? So the ability to work with others and defend your position and accept it if that's not your position, but that's the collective group decides that. Continue to work with them. That's my only.
I actually was a planning commissioner for many years. I was the chair for years. And one of the things I'm always looking for is the thing that also scares me the most. And the reason why is there's many people that come on there expecting that they will do all these different things and create a different life plan for it. That's not the role of the planning commission. The planning commission role is to stay within the law and the due bounds that were set up by the commission and our plans that we have. Yes, during the creation of a comprehensive plan or a shoreline plan, you're taking a lot more input, but more than that, other than that, you're not supposed to. You're never supposed to go to a client's property and look at the projects that they have come from, because you're supposed to be unbiased and take it in based upon the law that you have, the regulations that are set forth, because your job is not to put forward what you want, but to make sure that what they want stays within the law. There's a difference, because sometimes you come in conflict with your own desires because of that, and that can be a great problem, I assure you. I had to vote to open up a lake that I wished I could keep closed forever, but the law said, and the rules said, and they were entitled to it because it's their property rights, it's their living, their livelihood for their families. So what I'm always hoping for is somebody who will take into account the law and the respect that these people have when they bought their property, that they were allowed to do this, this, and this on it, and not have it restricted because I may not want it. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Thank you.
All right.
More
so-
questions? Well,
Yeah, do you have any more questions?
I think that was my main question.
Okay. All right, well, we appreciate you coming in. We'll make a decision and then staff will reach out and let you know what that decision is.
Thank you very much. It was
Great interview.
It was
Good
great
job.
meeting you.
Yes,
Nice
you
to
too,
meet you.
thank you. Cammy, do we know if Joel? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I had to ask.
So,
I didn't know who it was.
Don't be sorry.
So Pat, to share with you, one of the things of when serving on the board that was amazing to me is we had big projects that were planned, and everybody always wanted to design the rezone or whatever around whatever these people were deciding or saying that they wanted. But it doesn't work that way. If you rezone a piece of property to do this, well, that also means they can build an amusement park, because that's what's allowed in that zone. They don't have to be truthful in there. Then there's other people that don't want any growth at all, and they'll stop it from happening because they don't think it, the neighbor would like it, but the law says they could. Those are some of the words I have. Is
All
he
right, so
here?
it doesn't sound like Joel is here. So our last applicant is Ronald, and I believe is Ronald on? I don't see Ronald on there either.
No, Tevin,
What's that?
Tevin Medley.
Oh, I've got Ronald Medley.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, wait. Oh, that his email address is.
Are either one of them on there?
Do we have Ronald Medley anywhere?
I don't see the name up there.
No,
He's scheduled for 10:20, so.
oh, 10:20,
Yeah.
okay. Well, we can kill time for 5 minutes and see if because he was virtual, right?
Yes.
You have the other folks?
Yeah,
I'm just,
some of my favorite peeps.
That us?
Yes.
Or me?
That's you. Come on up.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Sorry,
How are you
wrong
doing?
hand. I'm all right.
Wait,
Oh,
Ronnie.
surviving.
Oh, I think, no,
Hot seat.
I won't make you come up.
Hot seat. Yeah, this is.
she's the chair, she can make him come up.
She's like the backbone. Well, sorry.
All, yes, and more. I would say
Oh,
even more.
looks like we've got him here.
I can't read it.
That's him?
Tevin.
Sorry. You can still sit up here if you want.
I'll start sweating.
We would not want that. All right. I'm gonna ask right off the bat, do you go by Tevin or Ronald?
Evan, thank you for asking.
Thanks for clarifying. I know I have one commissioner that would really, he likes to know names. Actually, we all like to know names, but if you don't mind, we'll go ahead with your interview. So, we have 7 questions that we'll ask, and we alternate questions. We'll go in the same order, if you guys don't mind. And then, there are no right or wrong questions, like Commissioner Netherland says. I really like that. But let's go ahead and start with our questions.
Welcome, welcome. I'm gonna turn around so. What do you see as the function of the Planning Advisory Commission?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, hi everyone, good morning. As I mentioned, my name is Tevin. So I understand the function to be really focused on long-term direction and visioning. How do we put ideas into action? And I think, perhaps accountability as well, in some of those discussions and planning pieces.
All right. Good morning. Why do you want to sit on this advisory board? Why would you like to sit on this advisory board?
Oh, so the question, why I would like to sit on the advisory board. So I do a lot of work in public sector, whether it be with, city governments or states, but I think I haven't had time to spend in this county in particular where I live. And so I think that would be really great to be more involved locally, to kind of represent some perspectives and viewpoints, that I would bring.
All right, great. So please describe your familiarity and understanding of the Comprehensive Plan, Growth Management Act, and development regulations.
So I would definitely want to get a bit more caught up, but my current understanding is that there's lots of policy around land use. There is a 20-year comprehensive plan that has different aspects, and there's lots of engagement going on around that. So my understanding is that that is kind of ongoing development. And for the specifics, I would definitely want to spend some time kind of digging into the details.
So, Kevin, what is your opinion of rural development?
In regards to how it should be done, or current state, or?
Yeah, both.
Yeah, so, I live in a pretty rural area, I would say. Not much paving on the road, and, got to make sure you have a generator in the wintertime. So I think it's really great to keep a lot of that kind of untouched nature out here, especially where I live. So I work mostly from home on a computer, and it's really great to have that contrast between screen time and time outside. And so I think there's definitely opportunity to develop, but also something important about preserving kind of that rural flavor that is out here for sure.
The board meets in the evenings at least once a month currently using Zoom. Will this be an issue?
Not at all.
Great, and do you have any conflicts of interest of county code violations? Do you have any county code violations that you're aware of?
No.
All right, Tevin, here's the best one of all. Do you have any questions for us that would help you to decide if this is right for you or just something you're curious about?
That's a great question. I do. So I guess my question would be, what would you say is the most rewarding part of your role?
Go for it.
My role as a county commissioner or for a planning commission? Because I served on the planning commission. The
Yes,
most.
planning commission would be great, yeah.
Did you say planning? Mm-hmm. Okay, when I served on the planning commission, the most rewarding part was, my best memory was standing up when we had a shoreline master plan come before us, and it was a booklet that was literally 6 inches thick. Battled, and then when it was a final product, but I'd already become a county commissioner, we got it down to less than an inch. But to me, that meant that it was rewarding because I was able to keep people with the ability to utilize their land to the best of their ability for what they paid for, while at the same time still protecting the environment and even the economy around us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm going to go with, I've been in this for a week. I haven't attended a Planning Advisory Committee meeting yet, so I don't have a lot of insights or experience, so I'll kind of leave it at that.
And I guess, I was never on the planning commission. However, we're, hand in hand with them on many issues. I like that they bring us recommendations. There's a lot of SMEs, subject matter experts on that commission. And so I do value their advice, their expertise. But that kind of sometimes makes our role as the Board of County Commissioners a little dicey because we may not agree exactly with what they're saying. So I guess if you were to ask me what type of person that I'm looking for to be on that commission, it's somebody that wants the best for the county as a whole. No personal objectives, no personal goals, just to follow the guidelines and to be a good member of that commission.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. And then can I ask one more
Yes,
question?
it's all you.
Yeah, so what would you say are maybe the biggest challenges, in the next 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years? I know, lots of the planning is around housing and land use, and, I'm sure there's just all kinds of different complexities there, but what would you say looking forward are some of the kind of bigger challenges?
You're closest, go for it.
Okay, so for me, some of the biggest challenges, as you've already hit on, is going to be housing. But some of the bigger challenges is always going to be areas of the state pushing to change the stuff we're already doing. There's a thing out there where they talk about a safe harbor, which the Growth Management Act put all these rules on being able to utilize our county. Currently, we in the rural areas, we have 5 acre, we're 1 home per 5 acres, 10 acre, 1 home for 20 acres. There's always going to be a push from the outside to make that even stricter and take away the values on those lands, but also to not allow for growth in the urban growth area where they actually designed it to be put. You're going to be faced with that at some point, and those are some of the big decisions that you guys have to make to bring back to us, because that's where you'll see that in the comprehensive plan. And the biggest thing is to make sure that meets up with the state. So it's actually pretty difficult. While protecting your neighbor, while trying to keep your vision of what you'd also like to see.
I would see biggest challenge is exactly that, dealing with the growth that's coming to Mason County and fitting it in within the comprehensive plan and all the rules and regulations going to be imposed upon us by the state and various things like that. So how do we make all that work and still benefit from the growth that's coming our way while protecting the rural feel of Mason County?
Yeah, great answers by these guys, and I'd have to echo what they said. We're definitely going to be facing a lot of growth, but it's all within the UGA. So I just want to make sure that everything is done correctly, so that when my time in this office is done, I can still look back and say, well done. I did what I could, did what I should.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And then last question on my side, and it was just touched on, but in a lot of spaces that I'm in, that I notice, there's a lot of succession planning going on. There's a lot of folks coming to that retirement age and kind of transitioning into that next phase of life. And I'm curious if you have recommendations for that next generation of folks that are going to be leading either at that local level or in these types of committees or similar spaces. What advice would you have for them?
Let's keep this going. Go for it.
Okay. That's actually a lot harder question. The other ones were easy. The advice that I would have for them is the whole world's changing around you. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So get involved, be a part of it. If you want to if you wanna be able to complain on the outside, you have to be involved on the inside to try and make sure that, you're steering it before the ship runs you over. Because it's a lot harder to change things once you're just pissed off, angry, and trying to get 10 people in the room. And if you, are selected to be on this committee, there will be times where that will happen to you. They'll be in the room and there'll be some angry people sometimes. But again, that's all part of it. So that's my advice to the youngsters.
Try and develop the proactive attitude as opposed to always reacting. If you're always in a react mode, it's very stressful.
Yeah. Again, ditto what they're saying, but also, I think some things that are missing, that I'm seeing, I'm on some of the state boards, and then I also watch other meetings, very involved with timber counties, and I see a lot of very angry people saying some very angry and disrespectful things to volunteers, basically. Many of them are volunteers that are on these boards. And so I guess my suggestion, my wish, if I were, had this magic little wand or whatever, I just want people to be kind. Pretty simple.
Yeah. Great advice. Well, thank you all for sharing. Those were all of my questions, and just appreciation for your time and the others that are in the space, many others. So, yep, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
will make a decision, and then our staff will get back with you.
All right, I'll let you all get back to it.
All right, thanks, Tevin.
Thanks.
All right, William, come back to the table, please.
Try again. Well, good morning, and thank you for having me today. This is kind of our annual check-in, just to share some information on what's going on with the board and how things are panning out service-wise for employers and job seekers in Mason County. Sharon's been a great, or Commissioner Trash, sorry, has been a great leader in the consortium, and we really appreciate the time that you spend, the advice and direction you give us when we need it, and your support. So I have a few things in front of you. All of these things are online except for some stuff I'll share with you here a little bit. But I thought we'd start with the annual report. This is something we brought back. We used to do it in the past prior to the pandemic, and we brought it back as a way to kind of close the loop on communicating. And most of what you see is coming to our Pack Mountain website in either a PDF version, but more importantly, an interactive kind of data approach. So we'll be able to present data around sectors, employment, the services we're doing as a region, but also you'll be able to pivot the tables and look at them county by county. And as we mature our data strategy, we'd like to be able to get into neighborhood by neighborhood. And I'll get into that here in a little bit so you have a better understanding of what we mean there. But if you start with on page, we have just, basic introductions of staff members, board members. We had every year we give the Nancy Payne Award. This year we gave it to Timberland Regional Library. Board members make the nomination, and Cheryl and her team has played a huge role in helping us kind of transition post-pandemic into the way we feel like we need to move to deliver services. And Commissioner Trask has been involved in those conversations. A lot going on with facilities is the big piece there. But looking at pages 10 and 11, this really kind of breaks down our business services strategy. We call it business solutions because we're really trying to build, not just help them find the talent they need, openings they have immediately, but also strategies on how to build talent so that they have the appropriate pipeline of talent to get them where they want to go long term in terms of growth, not only for their individual company, but for the local economy and the state economy as a whole. A good example would be True Form here in the community. They need a lot of welders. and in order for them to be able to grow to the scale of business that they would want to be. And it's not something you can just go to the existing CTE programs, which are the high school programs, or the CTC programs at the college level to find welders. You have to build a strategy to build to the scale that they want to do. So we've implemented a sector strategy for specialty manufacturing. They're one of our first partner employers. Sierra Pacific is really the initial company that we did this work with. But not only looking at like where are they going business wise, but how do we develop that talent? How do we work together? We've seen some great work out of Sierra Pacific, which is called out here, on how they work with area high schools to develop talent. They've also become a mentor to other employers like Von Pump down in Grace Harbor County, as an example. So they've helped them build that process out. But you get some overall information here on the 6 sectors. 2012, we did a cluster study to figure out what are the most important sectors, and then the related occupations that cluster together to form these. We're not perfectly aligned with how the feds would describe these sectors, but the influence or the deviation is really built on information from local employers, how they're standing up their operations, what occupations that they are struggling to fill, and getting a better understanding of that to help us form what those sector strategies look like. From those 6 sectors, we have created what we call a 30 by 30. Organically speaking, when job seekers just come in and want a job, we tend to steer them towards something that they can quickly pull off from a training perspective. That doesn't necessarily net for employers what they're looking for. So we've kind of flipped the script a little bit, and we're focusing on the top 30 occupations, which nets about 130 occupational codes across those 6 sectors. As an example, you'll see supervisor or leadership, frontline leadership across all 6 occupations. So from a skill development perspective, that gives us information to talk to the community colleges and other partners on developing programs. And then all of that rolls up into over the 4 years, and we're going to get a 4-year plan next, in driving outcomes for employers. So by working with employers to identify those 30 occupations, it's something we do with our business and sector engagement committee. We're able to align closely to what they want and give very focused direction and input into the community college system and K-12 system on how to develop talent or what talent to be developed. We're just getting into that. We're 6 months in. We got some really good results in our first 2 months, or 2 quarters, sorry, that we'll be releasing at the end of January. So if you flip over to page 12 and 13, you see a bit more from our job seeker perspective. We do have some strategic initiatives. You see those 4 areas called out over here on page 12. Re-entry is something that we have some specialized programs that we do in Thurston and Lewis County. And then food security was a community grant block project that we did across all 5 counties. What we'll talk about specifically today is the WIOA formula, which is the resources that as county commissioners you're responsible for governing. That's what you empower Pac Mountain to use. That's about 46% of our budget, which is about half of what it used to be. It used to be 80 to 90% of our budget. So we're very excited that we're diversifying. Most of that diversity comes in the form of the poverty reduction resources. The governor's Economic Security for All program is in the new governor's budget. It looks like we're going to carry that forward. It's in the Community Reinvestment Project, which are resources from the cannabis revenue for community reinvestment, is the other part of that. Largely what we do is we have those resources in partnership with the formula resources allow us to have a longer period of time and incentivize folks that are on TANF or SNAP in getting out of those situations and becoming self-sufficient. We've had a lot of great success. As a region, we're performing very well. We also are demographically connecting to those priority populations that are called out in the federal legislation at around 50% of the population served, which we're about 9% across the state. So those marginalized populations are really benefiting from those programs. And we also run a program up at JBLM that's important connectivity to the region, and we're looking to expand that into Bremerton in the next coming years. We have an appropriation for Murray and Cantwell, Senators Murray and Cantwell, to do that work. Any questions about the programming pieces? Great. And then on pages 14 and 15, it's the overview of our financials. At the end of February, at the end of this month, we will have the first 2 quarters of this program year, which will be released and distributed to everyone through our new data system. Just a couple of things to call out here. I talked a little bit about that bottom pie chart. You can kind of see where our resources come and how they are pushed out in terms of the focus areas. And then just above there, you can see from a service perspective what it costs to run the board and the responsibilities we have. And that does include a little bit of direct programming, participant services, which are a bulk of the services, and then business solutions and services. And then you can see how that breaks down from our budget to actual, how we're spending. The first 2 quarters of this year, we've had the best 2 quarters we've had, according to Employment Security, in the last 14 quarters. So we've been undergoing some significant change on how we're pivoting away from being service-oriented to outcome-oriented. That has been a bit disruptive, but what we're starting to see is that hard work is coming into focus, and we're really getting where we want to be in terms of service delivery. And then just a couple more things on pages 16 and 17. 16, we had Craig Clark. He was with Pack Mountain for, 27 years? 24 years. He had a brief period where he left it, but he did come back. He was a great resource, a wonderful gentleman. He retired, and we just acknowledge him there. Then the last page there is the big, hairy, audacious goal, or the BHAG. This has been a very interesting approach to driving outcomes. So it's goal-oriented, and it's something that we find that especially when it comes to job seekers, people are very stressed out by goals. So we've had a lot of conversation, and the intent with the goal, which is to place 2,100 people into these high-demand occupations across the region, is just an intentional effort to connect people to those occupations. And to set goals to drive people's behaviors. That allows us to shed maybe old practices that don't return value and adopt some new ones that do bring value. We have settled into it. People are excited about it. It has had the intended consequences with our business and job seeker services team. They were separate teams and they weren't working together. They are now, and this strategy kind of pushes that into that. This is released, it is online and available, and I think you have the link in your minutes. Any questions about the report? Great. And then the next step, or did you have a question?
No, I
Oh,
just
sorry.
well
Okay,
done.
Obviously, I have someone that's all done. So
Okay, great. Okay, so the next 2 things is our annual 4-year plan, which was approved by by the State Workforce Board and the Governor's Office. Late March with some modifications. We got those modifications in, and we just submitted an additional modification. We missed a few requirements on contract training. It's a strategy that we use. After this was reviewed by the monitors, they pointed out that we missed a few elements, so the state approved those modifications, so we're able to go forward with contract training. That's an important piece of being able to fill some of the training gaps we have across the region. We won't spend a lot of time on the report. It's a lot of information. I will call out on page 23. You can see the top 25 occupations here in Mason County. All of the data that's presented, the underlying data on forming the local plan, is we have the region, but we also have it pulled out by county, so you can review and look at the different investments and things that we're doing from a strategy perspective based on county information. Most of this stuff was used to help us form our current outreach strategy around how we engage job seekers. So one of the things that we've noticed through the recompete process, which Mason County went through, as well as Grays Harbor and Pacific counties who were awarded, is that we do have a labor participation challenge in the region, which essentially means that we have people who, in the prime working age of 24 to 59 that are sidelined and out of reporting. So they're not showing up in the UI reports. Just to put some context, in Grays Harbor County as an example, there are 3,900 people more in terms of percentage than you would see the rest of the country. So the country is around 82% participation rate. Washington is at 83%. I believe Mason is in the upper 70s, but low enough that it was eligible for the recompete resources. I think Grays Harbor County is 63%. Pacific is about 5 below that 83 percentage. So this area has some challenges. It tracks back to spotted owl, some other issues around the timber industry, and being able to focus on those populations is very important. One of the ways that we can do that is those households that have people who are sidelined in that prime market age tend to show up in ALICE, which is the asset limited income constrained but employed group. and also those in poverty. So we have a lot of data and information from the Census Bureau and also the United Way that helps us target those households in the communities that they likely reside in. So we're able to get very pinpointed with our outreach campaign. And if you look, before we get to that, I will point out there are 3 in the executive summary, which is the 5 or 6 page document stapled together. That gives you the 3 kind of big picture strategic goals that we have that this plan will align to. So the first one's around quality jobs. So if we're kind of in the business of helping people make informed decisions about the career and occupation they're going into, if we're going to do that, we need to understand the employers, the occupations they have available, and what the working environment's like for that. So the quality job standard that you see here on page, it's not numbered, it's like it's page 3, outlines it. So the objective by 2028, employers and job seekers are actively engaged in the development and implementation of a regional quality jobs strategy. So there's a lot of guidance. Federally, we have some best practices here in Washington, but we've taken this information and we're using it to develop a sector strategy that gives employers that meet certain criteria around culture, benefits, compensation, access to childcare and other resources. That strategy is something we're hoping to implement across all 6 sectors. We have some really great leaders already in Mason County, Sierra Pacific kind of at the top of that heap. And as we form that and we advise job seekers, we're better informing them on what it's going to be like to go to work for these companies, right? We're trying to help them make realistic, important decisions about their household and being self-sufficient. The other 2, credentials and training. So by 2028, employers and job seekers have increased access to industry-recognized credential opportunities that enhance economic success. A lot of conversations about our community college system, not only in Washington and Pac Mountain region, but across the country. Their effectiveness in helping folks get skills to go to work in their community or their region. There's a lot of question there, and they're enrollment-based, not outcome-based, something we were very similarly managed from a enrollment perspective. They're going to have to switch to an outcome-based strategy. We're already starting to see that. Some really interesting work out of all of the colleges in the region. But being able to have a credential, whether it's academic or industry recognized, maybe non-credit credentials through the education system are going to be very important. And it's what employers are asking for. They're not asking for the degree. And then the last one is by 2028, expand access to regional workforce development systems by developing strategic partnerships, integrating service delivery, data, accountability, and resources. So this is really about our one-stop system and the partners governed under the federal WIOA legislation, and making sure that we're coming together as a region and making decisions about how we're going to deliver services. And the big one that we've been focused on is decentralizing services. So instead of asking people to come into like a government-looking ran facility, we want to be able to connect with them where they feel most comfortable. So that could be the public library, a community-based organization that they're engaging in. So we're trying to push our resources out to those partners and get those partners to invest the resources, rather than asking them to come in, tell their story over and over, and access through the WorkSource system. It is also naturally declining. The WorkSource system isn't attracting people for a lot of reasons. Most of the work you could do online and do self-paced. So if we're going to come to the table with resources, we want to make sure that we can have an impact with them and how they're experiencing the system. So if they don't feel comfortable coming into a government facility, we'll come to them. Is essentially what we're after. And then the last piece here, and I'll pass these out. We're not distributing these just yet because we went through the legal process for this and found that there was a trademark challenge, so we wanted to get trademark free. So this says opportunity begins here. Oh, these are updated already. So sorry. So no, it is right. No, I've got it backwards. Yes. Okay. So opportunity grows here is not available without restriction or potential competition. So we weren't too worried about it at first, but as we dig in, if we want to trademark this, we decided to move it to opportunity begins here because that is freely available for us to trademark. Essentially, everything about the campaign remains the same. We're trying to coordinate the services or the work of connecting to doing outreach. Is something that employers do trying to find talent, something we do to get people enrolled into the programs we have resources for, and it's something that our partners are tasked with. So this plan is really try to educate people in the community to say, hey, listen, you don't have to drive to Tacoma or Thurston County for good jobs. There are good jobs available in your community. You're just likely not aware of them. And vice versa, we want to help augment employers' work in connecting to folks. They don't know how to connect to people that have fallen off of the unemployment list. These disengaged folks, they don't know how to get them a call to action to get them to apply for jobs. Largely because those folks feel like they don't have the skill sets and don't know how to get them. And that's what this campaign is really meant to be, is to pull together what everyone's doing, coordinate it, and try to drive the outcomes in local communities with those resources. So that when we do make an investment in a community, it'll return value to that community through placement with a local employer. Questions?
Well, a real simple one. What is WIOA?
It's Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And it's essentially the federal legislation that includes unemployment. We call that UI, unemployment and insurance. And also, so back in the 30s with Wagner-Pfizer Act, essentially it's an agreement that if you go to work for an employer and you're released from employment for no cause of your own, that the employer owes you some resources to transition back to work with another employer. That had turned into the federal unemployment system, and then WIOA is the retraining arm. What Wagner-Pfizer requires is to have job boards, so you can find jobs. That's all become electronic. It's out in the private sector as well with Indeed and products like that. But we're also the local workforce boards under WIOA are supposed to coordinate the other resources like financial aid, Pell Grants at the community college system, HUD, get some resources around reemployment. The community action councils as well get resources that connect people to employment. So we coordinate those services under a system to try to build efficiencies to get people connected to the resources that they would be eligible for. That's essentially what WIOA is. It is due for reauthorization. We got very, very close. We've been looking at this for a while. It's very job seeker focused. The O was added, it used to be WIA, now it's WIOA. Opportunity, because we really wanted it to be demand driven. So using the demand in the economy to reduce poverty is the intentions of that act. And it's what forms our local workforce boards, the state workforce board, and then oversees the distribution of the resources back to the counties to do that work in earnest.
Thank you.
That's the first time I answered that question in 2 minutes, I think. So.
I think so. I think it
Get
took
better
a while
at it.
when you're explaining it to me.
And one of the things that is going to change is the Act currently really focuses on training services, which is what we've been doing in our region. It's a bit of fighting against the grain because the state is very job seeker service oriented. So they want to eligibilize people and get people enrolled. That's the focus, not the outcome, which is occupational skill development and employment in the local economy. So we've been seeing that coming along. We've been working on that. The reauthorization leans into that, saying 50% of all of our resources needs to be for occupational skill development. We're very near that now. We just had the state in to review our system, and they had kudos on that front, saying that if and when this does get reauthorized, that we're ahead of the game, and they'll probably look to us to see how did we pull this off. And it's been, Sharon's seen it firsthand, it's been a lot of challenges with it, so.
Just a few.
So, Mr. Westmoreland, I've been around for a long time, and I've seen this organization do many different things over the years, in 13 years. I'm reading some of this, and it's beautiful. Establish related career pathways and expand access to training, expand career-connected learning opportunities, direct connected to high-road employment. Engage with your communities, provide feedback on local needs. Okay. So, over all these years, I've seen this organization where they were in place, and if there's one thing I've learned in life, if you want to fix something, the very first thing you have to do is be there. It's easy to say I have a computer that's located in a place.
Right.
But be there. In our county, we're separated 3 commissioner districts, and 1/3 of them is in his district, which would include Hoodsport and those areas. Mine would be up in Belfair, and so I guess my question would be, in order to engage with them, be there, what are you doing in our districts?
So there's a number of ways that I think we would look at how we answer that question. The first one is we oversee a system that in a region that's fairly complicated, right? So most regions wouldn't have 6 priority sectors, but in order for us to really look at the regional economy, we have to look at all the unique attributes and employer makeup on all 5 counties. In Mason County, and similarly in Pacific County, we kind of have this north-south dynamic going on. And what you tend to see is folks in the northern part of this county work in Tacoma and other parts of the state, whereas folks in the south tend to come around to Thurston County based on commuting patterns. Right now, we have inherited 4 fairly expensive, oversized locations for service delivery. It's important to note that they are not fully being utilized, largely because of the way people connect to the work, and you mentioned some of those, is different than it used to be, say, pre-pandemic, right? We saw very high service numbers for people coming into the Mason County location prior to the pandemic. And we haven't come within 50% of that recovery anywhere in the 5 counties. So one of the ways that we're trying to reduce the cost of delivering through a facility like that so we can have staff and job descriptions that allow them and encourage them to get out into community. So that would be called a decentralized model. So rather than asking people in a community, and we're fortunate to have a location in 5 of our counties, but given the size of our communities, that isn't necessarily the most convenient way for a lot of people to connect to those resources. So we started this year with our youth program, and we have 2 smaller contracts that were pilots, and we're getting ready to release our next round of youth funding that will increase that. These smaller contracts, one of them is down in Grace Harbor with a group called the More Right Group. They're delivering supporting services within and along with youth services, but the strategy for them and the way we looked at them is they're closer connected to certain communities in Grace Harbor County that we wanted to be better connected to. The idea there is that rather than asking them to come to a center that is grossly underutilized and very expensive, we would use that savings for that facility, because it is closing, to move people into a more distributed model so they can get out into specific communities. And then using data to help us understand what specific neighborhoods are likely in need of the resources we're managing is an important strategy as well to connect with those communities. I will say that we are not resourced to connect with every job seeker in every community across the 5 counties. It's just not realistic. So the legislation gives us certain priorities around populations. The big one, the one that we leverage the most often, is people in poverty or experiencing financial needs. So they might be on food stamps, as an example. So by targeting the services and strategies we have, it allows us to get the resources where they're most needed, and that is that distributed model. And we'll see more and more of that with the adult resources as well. It's why the outreach campaign is important, because we don't have facilities in every part of your community. So being able to connect with the folks in your community is important. And we can spin our data and report, spin's probably not the best word, we could sort and organize our data to see exactly where people are being served. I'm happy to generate a report for you, so you can see that we are distributing the resources, even if our facilities and access points are not as diverse as we would like for them to be.
So for myself, my question, if you wouldn't mind, I don't mind if you get it to me later, but I'd like to know what you're actually doing on the ground in Woodsport, Willowwalk, Belfair, Allen, Tahuya. Because we're a county of 67,000 people, and some of those areas are 45 minutes to an hour away from Shelton. So it's wonderful to have these things, but we have a lot more that has to be looked at. We used to have a connection in Belfair. I don't believe we have one anymore, and that's a shame.
I believe we do.
Do you? What do you have in Belfair going on right now?
Right now,
Other than-
if you look at page 92 of this book, it does show where different services are. It's 92, 93, and 94. And William, can you kind of briefly touch on the cohort I believe that's what it was called. We had a graduation just recently.
Yep.
Touch on that one, just so that this will kind of give you a better idea. Randy, I had the same concerns, and seeing the change in what Pac Mountain is now from what they were is just amazing. The outreach, the services being provided.
Mm-hmm.
I am just so proud to be a member of the Pac Mountain team now, even 3-4 years ago. So
So I see we have a computer there, that part I knew. What I would like to know is what the services.
he's
Yeah, so it's important first to understand the change in how we deliver services. We were very job seeker oriented. And what we produced were a lot of CDL and CNA certifications, and then low retention was a result of that. So people would go into these occupations because they were easier to take the resources we had, get the skills, and go to work. So we're trying to follow what the legislation is asking us, which is to serve not job seekers, but employers. And then we prioritize the needs based on the economic analysis that was originally done in 2012, but every 2 years, and then we changed the cycle a little bit more aggressively post-pandemic because we just didn't know how things would change. So we first look at who are the employers that we're targeting services for, and then what occupations are we trying to connect those folks to. So Pac Mountain oversees directly training investments. So that is an employer service, largely delivered through OJTs and cohort training. So we work with employers in the community to identify occupations where we can scale up and stand up a cohort training, which is also typically contract training, which is why it was important for us to modify the plan. So once we identify what those occupations are in a community or a county or within the region, then we build a cohort training model to address that training gap and get those folks connected to services. Basic career services, and those services guaranteed to all, are Wagner Pizer service. It's what Employment Security does. Those are largely referrals from UI. So when folks are on unemployment, they are required to connect with either in person in the Workforce Center in Mason County, or more likely virtually now, thanks to the pandemic. People are able to connect from their home and get those services. So Wagner Pizer is guaranteed to everyone who has a right to work in the region. Pac Mountain's resources, so EXA, WIOA specifically, those are, the board decides the investment strategy, and then the staff and the team create RFPs to get contractors to deliver those services. So this model of working with the employers to identify what occupations to focus on, and then pushing out into an appropriate service area, doing the outreach and connecting with them, most often electronically, and virtually, until we get to a point of training services, which is typically then in person. And those are stood up all over the region. We do most of them at Basic, Grace Harbor, and Lewis. In Thurston, we tend to use some of the existing resources, so we don't stand as many up, just because they have more training opportunities. So this point of connecting with the job seeker isn't as visual in terms of walking into a center for services. If they don't have resources like a computer, broadband, internet, we're likely connecting with them through the local public library. So we're trying to leverage investments without building more sites and locations, because just the 4 that we have, we can't afford to maintain those. And getting out of those contracts is a long process. I've been working on closing certain locations. I wouldn't share without more information which ones, largely based on how many people are coming and going. And the close would result in resources to get people into different parts of the community for engaging with clients, either virtually through the library system, coffee shops, whatever strategy makes sense, so that we are pushing out into the communities and serving a larger pool across the entire region.
Right, and I do want to say that we've gone from brick and mortar and a huge staff down to getting that money that was spent on that into the community, so that we are helping. The graduation that I went to, the cohort graduation, was awesome, because there were already employers there waiting for the graduation so that they could hire these people, and they were local employers, Mason County employers. So there is I've seen it. You may not see it, but I've seen it, how it's it's truly affecting, God, the board members on Pack Mountain are completely different than what they were 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I think that we've gotten stronger, more dedicated, more, I don't want to say interested, but maybe dedicated, we'll just go with that one. Dedicated folks on the board that want to see a change in their counties. So if you look at the board members from Mason County, they are rock solid. And Lewis County, Pacific County, every county has very good board members. So there's been a big change. So I can speak very highly and very proudly of the changes that Pack Mountain has made.
Yeah. What Commissioner Trask is speaking to is 4 years ago, 83% of our resources went into staff and facilities. So that left 17% to develop training, to work with employers and invest in individual skill sets. And I can tell you the amount of training services in any of the 5 counties was less than 10% of the folks we were serving. And with the resources we have focused on training, that seemed like a huge missed opportunity. Knowing that it's going to take us a long time to get our facilities right size, we've done other strategies, largely diversifying the resources. But being able to have more resources to do the service delivery in a distributed model really comes down to eliminating these high-cost leases. The resource rooms are things that we had to pay for. Like in Thurston County, the shared lab, it costs us about $250,000 a year. More than half of that comes from Pack Mountain resources alone, right? So, and we do that not because we want to or necessarily have to, but until we're out of these expensive leases, it's what we have to do. So getting down below 50% of admin has been a huge challenge. But it has been an opportunity to rethink how we connect with job seekers and connect with them more effectively.
I'm just one commissioner here, and I have my one opinion, and things that I'd like, especially when it comes to spending money and the recipients of monies and stuff. I believe that having somebody on the ground does make a difference. I think that having a regularity about it is actually extremely important. In the past, we used to have them there for a lot longer, but even if you had, as my opinion, for what I would like, one person that shows up every Friday at that one location to be there for some of these other service groups to send them to would be wonderful. One person in Hoodsport at that library. So the people that are out there in the other organization, including the tribes which are out there as well, could have some place to send them on a Friday or a Thursday or a Tuesday. Because if you're not there, they're not going to get to you. Because they just don't, especially in those areas. We all know that. Some of those areas don't even have the Wi-Fi. But if you can have the one person on the ground, they used to have them there for a lot longer, and they used to have to rent a space. You don't have to rent it. Just go to the library. They'll give you a room, I'm sure.
Yeah, so we do have a partnership with Timberland Regional Libraries. Our one-stop system committee that oversees the service delivery strategy is led by Cheryl Haywood, who is the executive director of the libraries. So what you're describing is what we're actively walking away from, because one day a week, what we heard is, well, I can't come on that day. So the strategy of this, instead of saying, hey, they're at Timberland Regional Library every Friday, what we say instead now, Commissioner, is when and where can you meet us if we need to even meet in person? Most people who do job search services that seek them out, they do them from the comfort of their home, right? But it is a very important point to point out, though, that not everyone, and a lot of people in this community don't have adequate internet access, bandwidth, or skill sets. So virtual service delivery is still very tricky from that perspective, because there is a point where someone has to go in and enter data and information to a system and do the job search electronically. So when we, instead of having a static point in time that is costly to manage and maintain, because we still have to pay for a staff member, even if no one shows up for these appointments or this time frame, instead of connecting with the job seeker and say, when is the best time for you to meet? What is the best mode? Do you have proper internet? Would you prefer a virtual appointment on Teams or Zoom? Do you want an in-person appointment? What is the best time? So by not being bound to a particular schedule, we have the flexibility to say, hey, we can meet you at 6 o'clock at Starbucks if we want to, or we can come meet you at the library for resources. And if you do need dedicated resources, like our resource room, we do have one in Mason County that's available for folks to go to. But mostly we encourage them to use the library system. We went through a hard, long process to get all of our sites certified, because the other thing is that it has to be certified. It has to meet ADA requirements. It has to be accessible through certain hours. It needs to be on transportation routes. So the direct service strategy, where we're engaging the clients and figuring out where and when it's best to meet with them, has been more effective in doing what you're after, providing services to your,
No
your
problem.
staff.
Over the next year or so, show me the return on investment. You're not gonna have it though, because out there in that area, they're not gonna, if they have to hunt you, they're not gonna find you. They just won't. That may be good in a city, but that doesn't work in
I'm gonna
rural.
agree to disagree and probably limit our conversations because our time is getting, down there, but if you had seen the graduates at the cohort graduation, they were from Matlock, they were from Grace Harbor, they were from, I wanna say we had one from Union. I can't remember, 'cause it's been a few, but it's been a bit. But anyway,
Commissioner,
there-
I'm not saying
there
they're
are-
bad. I just saying I would like to see more interaction with my community.
Okay, sure.
okay. That works?
Anything else? I do appreciate your questions and conversation. We will follow up. Anything else?
All right, no, we're good.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Think we have a
Thank you
meeting
for your
coming up,
service
too.
on the consortium.
It's always an adventure.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming all the way here. Don't forget to stop for coffee.
Yeah, well, we've got some employer visits, lunch, the
Oh,
whole nine
good,
yards.
good.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, guys. All right, let's move on to our prosecuting attorney.
Me?
You're on the spot now.
Well, I got ahead of I got ahead enough to notice that it was at 11 o'clock today. I didn't notice until this morning that it was slated for 5 minutes. So,
I might give you 7.
I was gonna say, show me one time where he's ever done 5.
well, yeah, a defense attorney one time to a jury said that I was incapable of saying anything with 5 words if it could be said with 10. And I've never forgotten that. It's probably true.
I've never known for you to be a long-winded person.
Yeah, I have the ability to get to the
An
point.
attorney, what are you talking about?
I'm a government attorney to boot. Well, it's not a lot of time, so what do you want? Do you want me to just start talking, or do you have questions?
it.
Or the bottom line is my request is to revisit the chief deputy prosecutor's salary. It's was just changed. However, I did my best to go through as much of the background that I thought was relevant, and I will say up front that it was a difficult rabbit trail to follow because I'm looking for documents on the county website, and I found, I think, everything I needed, and I think I'm fairly close to right in as far as the history goes from about the 2008-2009 timeframe. The primary, well, I guess maybe I'll just start here. I know that typically we, and I'll just treat this like an appellate argument. If you have questions, stop me and ask them. But I'd like to ask that be revisited and put back on the agenda. It came before the board on the 17th of December. At that time, Commissioner Netherland and Commissioner Schutte were present. Commissioner Trask was on vacation. Commissioner Tarswell was not a commissioner yet. And at that time, there was some recent dealing with the position of the court commissioner. That is something that I've always seen as a direct internal comparison to the position of the chief deputy. And I think in light of that, it came up very, very, very quickly and with really not enough time and not having gone through this procedure. Although at that meeting, Commissioner Netherland had suggested that perhaps we should consider setting it at 85% of that which is set by the Washington State Citizen Salary Commission for a Superior Court judge. which would also mean it would be 85% of that of the elected prosecutor, because those are set by statute the same. There wasn't an opportunity to have it briefed beforehand. I think Commissioner Schutte felt a little bit surprised by the change. That was something that I spoke with him afterwards, and his opposition or reluctance that day to entertain it seemed to be, and I think this is fair for me to say, and okay for me to say, process, because it hadn't been discussed that way in the briefing, and also Commissioner Trask was not present for the meeting. Although certainly all three of you, I think, know now, and Commissioner Trask and Netherland also historically know that this is something that I've advocated for in the past. There has been changes to the structure in the past that have been sort of compromises of what I think it ought to be set at, and I indicated on the 17th of December that since there seemed to be tolerance for considering it, it didn't seem right to stop the train that day, and I don't know that I could have if I wanted to, because a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. But I promised I'd be back for the second bird, and so here I am. I do think that we typically and historically talk about comparable counties, and I've been doing this for a long time, and it's fairly recent that I tried to look into what that means and where that comes from. It seems to me that it's something that involves PERC during mandatory arbitration for uniformed personnel, and they establish what they're going to use for comparison at the outset of the arbitration. I always thought it was set by statute. I don't see that anywhere. I know that we historically, as a way of setting markets, look to certain counties as our comparable counties based upon their relative budget size and tax base and population. That doesn't really account for, there's some difficulties in that I've always dealt with and expressed, both as a deputy prosecutor and as the prosecutor, and that is they typically have more incorporated cities than we do, and a lower relative to incorporated population, a lower unincorporated population, which certainly affects our office differently than it affects those offices. They're also not all structured the same. So, when we used to bargain contracts for deputy prosecutors, it would, as a deputy prosecutor, it'd be like you have some counties that have a deputy 3 and ours had a deputy 3, and they'd say, we'd look at it and hear from the, all of the bargainers, well, this is a 3 to a 3, that's comparable, without recognizing that we have 1, 2, and 3 at the time, and they would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it's really difficult to get to apples. In addition to different population and incorporated city makeup, those other offices have typically more attorneys and more staff to do the work. And then I just come back to, I think that the best internal equity comparison in terms of positions is that of the court commissioner, which is appointed by the elected Superior Court judge and tied to their salary at a certain percentage. I don't know, I had trouble finding, other than I knew when it was 75 and I know when it's 85, I had trouble finding when specifically that changed and what action it was that changed that. But I'm fairly confident that we've not gone through the types of market analysis or different surveys that is done with other more routine county employees, because it's a professional employee that is a very specific type of job, which is very important. But I would be remiss, I think, if I didn't say with my out loud voice that not only is it set at a salary higher than the chief deputy prosecutor, but while the duties of the chief deputy prosecutor and prosecutor's office and burden on us has gone up, the duties of the court commissioner have actually been reduced. As they say in court, unless you have questions, I'll rely on my brief. But it's my request that the board consider this action of revisiting where the salary of the chief deputy prosecutor should be set. It's difficult to you know, we have people and we have positions, and we have to talk about positions, and sometimes we have to talk about that without talking about the specific person that's involved. I did my best to do that. I think that it's warranted on that, but I would just end by saying, you know, we've got something valuable in Tim. You have something valuable in Tim. Not only do I think that it would be difficult, if not impossible, for me to continue operations if I were to lose him in that position. Even if I could go on, I think that would have a big time detrimental effect on the county. And so he's great at communication, he's great at solving problems and staying out of trouble, and he's great at getting out of trouble when we find ourselves in it. And so that's what I've got. How did I do on time? I didn't hit 7 minutes, did I?
You're close.
Yeah.
Randy?
So, when we were having our discussions in the earlier ranges, when it came to his wage, that was before this other one was thrust upon us. And in further discussions with the prosecuting attorney's office stuff, it got agreed to before they even offered out the job. So it put us in a bad position when we created a level of pay for that commissioner position. That's why I felt it was inappropriate, the whole aspect of it. I'm still supportive of what I was saying in the meeting. I still believe that this is the right amount for him, is at the 85%. I have no problem with that, and we all know I'm a tight one. I just feel like this one is appropriate, and I probably wouldn't have fought so hard for it if it hadn't been for that other position that was created just on a Zoom meeting, which caught me way off guard, as I'm sure it did you and others. So I'm still in the same place that I was. I'd like to move it forward, but I'm one.
I just will reiterate and agree that this is more about the position than the person.
Yep.
And that's, I think I agree with your brief and your argument that, yeah, that's what that position should be getting regardless of who the person is. So I'd be in support of moving it forward.
Well, you're a good debater. And honestly, I was shocked a little by the December 17th meeting.
Yeah.
Me being away and not being a part of a briefing. I think I was disappointed that it was brought forward at that time. Tim is invaluable. I believe everybody in the room could agree with that.
I do. And I know it is true. We have to talk about position and not always people, but,
Right,
or
right.
not, that has to be divorced to an extent, but I'm sure you can understand that's difficult for me to fully divorce,
Right.
just because of that.
Just to be clear, I
That role.
completely am voicing my opinion based on the position.
Right.
I know him, but that has nothing to do with this particular position compared to other counties where they have it separated into 3 or 4 is a huge difference.
Well, and I'm hoping that now with our in-person meetings, things that people felt comfortable bringing forward on Zoom will no longer happen. For sitting across the
Yeah.
table from each other,
Yeah.
that I'm hoping will stop a lot of those decisions.
Okay,
So it sounds like you've got at least 2,
okay.
Mark. We've got 2 that would like to bring this, at least 2, that would like to bring this
We
forward.
can put on the agenda for the
We want it-
21st.
I think that's our next meeting.
Yep, that's
Okay.
the next regular meeting. And then do you have a recommendation for when that would become effective? Would be a normal question I would ask you.
Do you have a recommendation that you would like?
Do I have a
That you'd
recommendation?
like us to consider?
What's the next pay period?
So the
So we're
20,
gonna not do retro.
okay, then let's just say as of February 1.
Good?
Yep, works for me, put it down.
Okay. That will adjust by a little bit, downward by a little bit, my math on what the anticipated budget would be, which is
11/4.
not a terrible thing. Yeah, I don't know, that's my best ability. used to be really good at math, but I haven't really done math. I spent a lot of time with math in a lot of
County
years,
work
so.
will ruin you.
Yeah.
That's why we talked to Jen about this stuff.
That's,
so she had a
hey, yeah.
calculator.
And if you think I
Why we have our-
didn't on that number, but if you think that we didn't, then, just for general stuff, then, yeah, we're trying to be responsible and still do what I think is appropriate and right to advocate for.
Well, I know, and I know that position has kept us out of trouble or has gotten us out of trouble.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very important position.
You know, when I first ran for office, and I'm just taking up somebody else's time and risking snatching defeat from the jaws
That's
of
okay,
victory.
Dave doesn't need time.
When I was first elected, one of the knocks was, I was really good at the criminal stuff, but the civil stuff is so important, and we just aren't equipped to do that. And I've been so blessed by what Tim has been able to do. He makes me look good all the time and helps. And it's not about making me look good. He makes me look good because he does a good job for the county, and it makes the office look good, which has at least a tertiary effect to me. But I've been very proud of the fact that I think we've improved things in that regard, not ever had a drop off from day one. So,
Yep.
okay.
All right.
See you on the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor.
Great vote.
Thank you. Yeah. I've read the first two probably 50 times or 30 times, I don't know. But I got inspired to spend more time in this one recently when a buddy of mine was reading all three of them, and I'm rereading it. Thank you. Anything else, or do I just say goodbye?
Bye.
Say goodbye.
Say goodnight, Mike.
All right,
I used to have
Mr.
an attorney
Windom.
that would talk so fast I could get an hour's worth of lawyering in about 30 minutes. She talks so fast. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, I've got two things today. I've got what we've got before us here, then I have a quick announcement afterwards. So we did come to the commission back in either late November, December, about this pilot project. And it's a little bit of background on this pilot project. We've looked at a number of resources, companies that would address things in the mental health arena. Commissioner Trask sat with me as we kind of interviewed some folks from another outfit. And the thing is, with each one of these, they're different. So the one we talked with, they're very much about veterans, and others do different things. Some use just AI. What sets this one apart is it uses AI to connect people with people. So it's different. So it does an initial screen with AI, but then that connects to a person who's either a counselor or a trained listener or a therapist. So this is unique amongst all the ones we talked to and ones we listened to. A piece of the goal of this, beyond getting people some service, is to compile data for the legislature, because we'd like to see something like this go forward, and we need to get cracking on it because the legislature is going to start meeting any second now.
They are meeting.
Oh, they are meeting.
Today's
Okay,
the first day.
today. All right.
Yep.
New governor today.
No, on the Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
So we want to get this data in. The pieces of this that I liked is that it connects people to people, not just to an app on the phone. Yeah, it uses the app on the phone. I've always been disappointed with our Syringe Exchange in that it really didn't have a great track record of connecting people with service, getting people into treatment. This is a little different in that our intent is to take it way broader than that population. We want to go across our population to look at a cross-section of all of Mason County. So we're looking to do 2,500 people with this program. It's $200,000. That comes out to $80 per person for the length of the program. We did in December talk to Choice, who rejected us within 24 hours. They are going to be concentrating primarily on Medicaid. Anything that's Medicaid focused, that's where they're going to focus. So this didn't quite meet their criteria. We have worked with the person we've hired here to help us do this research and to look at grants and funding. Nothing was available. We looked at SAMHSA, we looked at some other funds. Nothing quite fit this category. So we went back and looked at treatment sales tax, and that seems to be a really good fit. And in our treatment sales tax, we've had a balance that's been growing and growing. We're over 2 million now. So we're asking for a piece of that, the 200,000, to do this pilot, to move forward. And online, Ritu is here. She is the owner of the company, and we've been working. I did submit this to legal. There's one process, I think it was Wisconsin or something, but they have since, like Friday, we got the amended contract that says it would be in Washington. So Tim's reservations have been alleviated, so we're ready to go forward now. So I'd like to, if we can, I don't ask this very often, to get on an agenda for tomorrow. If not, we can go to the next one.
Well, gosh,
But-
we don't have a meeting tomorrow.
Oh. Okay, well then.
So that's a
then
no.
It's a no. Okay, well then the next week would be just dandy with me.
That's
So,
funny.
so questions, I've got the brochure in here. Our subject matter expert is here, and just want to bring this forward.
What committee would this fall under at the legislative level? I want to say
Probably healthcare is where we're,
Human Services.
yeah,
So Senate is Human Services.
Right. and in the House would be the healthcare.
Right, because what I'd kind of like to do, and then also want to, Jen, if you could tell us what we have in the TST fund, that would be great. But what I'd like to do is invite some of our, from Senate and House folks, so that they can see what we're doing, and maybe they would love, because they love pilot projects.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we could reach out to them, maybe they could help us with the funding as well.
Okay.
Or at least get them interested in this.
At least
so
get them
that they can-
interested. And I can certainly reach out to a couple. I'm thinking Joe Schmick is one,
Joe, for sure.
you know, because he's very interested in bringing bringing programs to the rural areas. And that's where this is.
Harris is now in the Senate,
And Harris, he's in the Senate, okay.
yeah. So I think, I like the idea, and I like us being a pilot project, because typically your pilot project folks are the ones that get funded first if it's coming from the state.
Mhm.
Yeah. Commissioners?
Go ahead.
I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Yeah, I've read through all of the agreements, and it seems necessary, but, you know, I'd like to have a little more time to mull it over.
So we did run this by the hospital too, because I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to interfere with the hospital's treatment plans, treatment programs, and the hospital said, by all means, add more. They don't have enough providers as it is, so.
Are you asking for it to be tabled and
No.
to get more information?
I mean, we're not going to take action on this yet today.
So you're okay with the same story?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that, because, you know, I always, if he needs more time, I want to have more time. I see no issues with it, you know, I think we're gonna move forward.
Okay.
I myself, I have a different question once it's all done regarding something else that I
Okay.
thought maybe this might be able to play a part of it, I don't think it will.
Okay. So look at bringing it forward, next action agenda?
That's what, and if something changes in between, if he finds more information, then we'll
Okay.
have another discussion. So, remember I gave you that phone call and that lady trying to find ways to have emergency contact if they lose their child or autistic kid and stuff like that. Could you please bring us something forward pretty soon on that, just to
Yeah,
see what
yeah.
the options are? Because we had that brief conversation, but to be honest, because it was so brief and I don't understand what you might, whether or not you might have something. I understand that there's a cost, but is there a way?
We did run that to ground.
That would pay for it.
And we've got a place that will do that. So if we know the person, we can connect them with the service. And I don't think there's a cost. So I think there's a foundation that's working on this.
If we do, okay, so then what I'm gonna do instead is I will have her contact you direct and see if we can't put it together.
Yep.
If not, there was a program that other areas use for, let's say you have, you know, an autistic child or whatever, and they disappear, for safety, it basically is a great like a Amber Alert type thing, but it goes through other channels as well to bring them safely home.
Right, it also works for adults with Alzheimer's. They tend
Yeah.
Right.
how they put it, they elope. So, I wish I had never heard that used in that way before.
I get it though,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay,
So-
no, thank you, we'll start it that way, but if you think it's a beneficial thing to have that conversation for the whole county though on a regular basis, it's one thing for us to get that one person online, but there's probably a lot more out there that don't have that as an opportunity, and we can't expect them to find us, just like we had that conversation earlier with Pac-Man. Can't expect them to find us, we gotta find them. And if we have a program, maybe that's.
We can put that out, we can get it out there.
Well, isn't there
That
a
might-
program through DEM? That alert system, Mark,
Code red.
that maybe we could use, oh, hello Loretta. Because there's that system that if there is an emergency, it sends out an alert. I wonder if we could tie maybe that together.
Yeah,
For local,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
local distribution of it?
yeah,
Yeah,
we can look at that.
I mean, people have to sign up for it, but,
Yeah. You know, the sheriff in Okanagan County used to do all those collections personally. And he took that as his mission, is he would, you know, when he got the notice that somebody had eloped, he would go out and collect them himself.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of his thing. That was
That's kinda
frightening.
cool.
I get it over the years, I spent a lot of time looking for them, looking for teenagers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. We had one here in Shelton, what was it, last year, of all the things, everybody was crazy, mom's crying, and then we found her at the Youth Connection.
I remember that,
Which
yeah.
is probably of all the places to go, that was
That's
the
a good place.
best one. You
Yeah.
heard me
Best place for
compliment
her
her
to
on
be.
that, because
Yeah.
everybody was going crazy trying to find her, and there it was.
yeah, they do good
Yep.
work.
We can do that. And then the last thing I had was, we'll have an interim Secretary of Health as of the 15th. And the new interim is Jessica Todorovich, who is Chief of Staff right now. And I've known Jessica for years. She's a good person, a good one to work with, so I thought that was a great selection.
Been in our state for a while?
A long time.
How about that?
Do you think
Yeah.
she's gonna be more than interim?
I don't know. We'll see. She's used to working
That's
with,
appointed by Ferguson,
yeah.
well, the governor.
Right. So she's used to working with local public health. I mean, really involved with local public health, so.
If COVID taught us anything, it taught us how important those relationships are. You can have all the answers in the world, they even can agree on it, and then it just evaporated into the ether, and nobody even knew why. It just
Well,
did.
that's one of the things I did appreciate about John Weisman when he was secretary, is that he could call me on the phone.
And yell at you.
And yell. Yeah. So, but we had that relationship, and I'm hoping that, you know, I have that relationship with Jessica and whoever follows on behind that we have that as well.
That's cool. All right, anything else for Dave? Dave, anything else?
Board of Health, this month, coming up, couple weeks.
Okay.
When's the chair vote come up?
This month, couple weeks.
Tag?
Oh, you want it?
No, I am it. I don't want it again.
So we'll get that agenda out. I'm working with Mackenzie on that, so.
I'm looking for vacations.
There you go, yeah. So that's all I have.
Okay,
All right, well, thanks.
thanks, Dave.
Mhm.
It's been fun. All right, so next we have Loretta. Come on up.
And crew somewhere out there hanging in the wings. Morning, commissioners. Wasn't
Good
sure
morning.
how much in person you want.
I
but-
want, well, if you're asking me,
Yeah,
I want in person.
yes. Oh, no, I mean as far as
Oh,
folks
gotcha.
presenting.
Gotcha.
We don't want to have a giant show of force if that's
Uh-huh.
overwhelming, but at the same time, it's nice to
It's not.
recognize folks that do the work.
Right,
Believe me.
and for me, it's not overwhelming.
I'll say, over the years, I've had this room completely filled with men with firearms and the whole 9 yards.
Can we bring
Your little-
firearms?
Your little bit is gonna scare us.
All right,
Well,
perfect.
let's talk about the fire.
Right. Okay, so first up, Tina has a road vacation request that we'd like to set a hearing for.
Okay, we have road vacation number 423. We are requesting you recommend and approve to set a hearing date for Wednesday, February 26th of 2025. This one has been petitioned by the commissioners. regarding the sale on Johns Prairie, Johns Creek corner to kind of clean up the title and get rid of the old right-of-way from County Road Project in 1985, where they kind of smoothed out the curb.
Yeah. Pat, we had a piece of property that we went ahead and sold, or in the process of selling, and through that process, to make it valuable, we made them pay well for it. It was kind of not agreed, just let them know that we'd go through the process and we'd start the process ourselves instead of having to do it through a citizen-led process. And that's what would be coming before them.
And once the road is vacated, then the sale will be completed. They've decided to wait until.
Kind of makes sense.
Until this is cleared up. Yeah, and so time-wise, we're thinking that's at least, well, a couple months out. So it goes to the hearings examiner brings back their recommendation, and then one last time to the board. Yeah, so sadly, it's a little bit of a lengthy process.
Go ahead, vote no and keep the property too.
You know, I'd rather do it right than find out that we've done it wrong, so.
Right, and we'd rather
Process is great.
clear it up now that we know exactly what's going on instead of someone coming back a couple of years.
Yeah,
Yeah, and revisit the same issue.
yeah, perfect.
All right, and then Mike has a couple of items, kicking off our construction season bright and early, beginning of the year.
Oh, boy.
Right, normally.
Mr. Advanced Planner, he's got it.
We're asking the board to approve a resolution to create some county road projects. First one is Shelton Matlock Brady Road. It's a paving project with local funds, and that goes from Evers Bridge down to the project we did last year. That's about 1.2 miles. Then Coqualm Road is a section up there on Wyville Hill, above Wyville Hill. Wyville Road there. That's a RAP project that we're asking for some funds for. We're supposed to find out if we get approved here shortly.
What does RAP stand for?
RAP is Rural Arterial Program. Is the funding from CRAB, County Road Administration Board, local state funds. So
Thank you. Trying to have acronyms defined.
right. I'm terrible. I actually complain about acronyms all the time, so I shouldn't be using them at all. But the next project is Blevins, on Blevins Road. It's installing a new water system to the Evergreen Estates. That's a community development block grant of about $551,000. And the last one is another gravel conversion project of Maples Road, which is out on Harstein Island. We're doing a few maintenance projects out there this year, and so that's one of the gravel roads we want to pick up and convert over to chip seal.
So why are we doing the one on the water project? It's not our water system, right?
No, but it's an engineering project. So basically that started off, Dave left, but it was a planning grant, basically, working with both the city of Shelton and health to correct an environmental health issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
So it's connected to that old project.
Exactly. So health
which
kicked it off,
we led it.
appropriately so. We
Yeah.
led the issue,
Yes.
and then now it's an engineering project, engineering and construction. So it was here's the baton toss, now you get to carry out the next phase.
Yeah,
So
I want to
that's-
get this done.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's it.
All right, any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Got it.
Sounds good. So this will be on the agenda for the 21st, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the next thing we have is a request to purchase some steel superstructures for replacements of some bridges off of Washington State contract. There's 3 little timber structures that are out on Beeville Loop Road, Crispin Bridge, Danny Walker Bridge, and Portman Bridge, and they are concrete foundations with timber slab superstructures, and they're built probably in the 1953-ish area, and so the timber superstructures have been deteriorating to the point we need to replace them. Normally we would go through a a process of applying for grant for bridge replacement, but they're short span bridges. They're not considered bridges. And so we have to replace them ourselves. And
Oh,
so this
sure.
is the cheapest way that I figured out to do that.
I was gonna say, this is a huge savings by doing it this way, though.
Yeah.
I'm 100% in favor of it.
Yeah, so we had 9 timber structures, and last year, or year before, wasn't it? We did the same thing with Rock Creek Bridge on Cold Palm Road, and replaced the superstructure with our own county forces and everything. So we're gonna do the same process and try to get rid of these timbered bridges. So,
Would that make your life easier?
yeah, it'd make it a lot easier.
So Mike, a portion of Beeville Loop is closed right now, is that correct?
There is 3 loops on Bayville.
Okay.
But one of them is actually closed. We took out a culvert that was failing
Mhm.
catastrophically, and a redundant stretch that had about 22 ADT on it.
Mhm.
So at this point in time, it's still closed, yes.
Okay.
There still is a loop. You can go up Beeville, go around Beeville Loop, and come back down forward. So there's 2 ways out.
Okay. So what's an ADT?
ADT is average daily traffic count, so about 22 cars in a 24-hour period actually travel through that section of road. So it's not very well used in that sense, so.
And commissioners, this is one where we presented this previously, and we do not have any plans to replace that anytime soon. So if you're hearing things or you have questions or concerns about that, I just want to be clear that we are not planning on replacing that at this time. It'll be a costly replacement, a full
it'd be
bridge. Yeah, so
$2
if
or
you
$3
get
million job.
questions from the community about that, or again, if you have concerns about that, we're definitely happy to come back and rebrief in more detail about that.
It's something I'd kind of like to ask, but I need to give a brief description why. Over the years, we've had many troubles that has to do with Loretta, where they always wanted to go for brand new stuff, things, we had equipment that they use a few times a year, but it had to be brand new, it had to be huge. They don't do that anymore. Mike's really good at finding other ways to do it. I tell you that because what I'm about to ask, it's not a directive from the commission, I'm just asking it. Now's a great time to start looking on that secondary market for all those other old bridges that they have out there still, and maybe bring it back to us to be able to buy them up. This is gonna be a heck of a year the next year. One of the two, we always go a cycle. One of the two, and boy, if we can start loading up on them, it'd probably be a wise move.
Yeah, we've got, like I said, we got a few other bridges, Ike Bridge, Bowling Bridge, Lavokie Bridge, those all could be replaced with single lane, short span bridges like you're describing that, yeah, we're gonna look into doing that, so. Chapman Cove is something, down on Agate Loop, that's something that's gonna that's a 100-foot long span, that's something that's gonna be a bigger cost, and I think I can get some BRAC funding for that. And then the last one would be Stretch Island Bridge, which is 361 feet long. It's, that's a major project.
Now, I know they wanted it, but I thought it didn't fail.
It's fine for the way it was constructed right now. There's
somewhere
very
down
small
the road.
deteriorated areas here and there, but there's nothing wrong with the bridge. It's load restricted because it was built in 1971. Actually, originally it was built in 1952. They replaced it in 1971. They replaced all the timber superstructure. And so it's a newer bridge, quote, than these ones. These are 53. So, but it's in decent shape for where it was built. It just wasn't built for the log trucks, the type of equipment we have now and stuff. So it's fine, but in the future, yeah, it's going to be replaced. It'll be a $10, $15, $20 million project. So. And typically how bridges go is 20% match from us, so.
Now that's gonna provide, or that's gonna require special like ecology and fish.
Oh, that'll be a nightmare
DNR,
for environment.
What about a wrap?
All kinds
Yeah.
of.
RAP would be involved with that, but you only get, RAP is limited, so it's a biannual. You get $1.6 million in a biennium. So it'd take a while for.
No, I meant, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I meant a carbon wrap. We did that before, and looked at that before, and it increases the longevity
lifespan of the-
rather than replacing it.
Yeah, it does. And the unique thing about this, it is concrete foundation. So it's got concrete foundation, it's in pretty good shape. Well, for its time anyway. It's the timber post above there, and you could do fiberglass wrap stuff on that thing.
So you might want to consider that a little bit. On my request on the bridges, the metal bridges that are out there, the emergency bridges and stuff like that, is it possible to put out a email requesting through the different
Yeah, we've been
counties and stuff?
investigating that. We actually found a Bailey bridge that we were looking for. It's a 100-foot span or 80-foot span. It can be deployed with our own forces, and that's the key. It's about 200,000 is what it was from over on the East Coast, somewhere there they made them. And we just haven't pursued that after discovering, been checking some other places.
Yeah.
You can get the prefab ones, like the big R ones, but if it's a large size, you have to have a contractor come and set it with a crane. So this thing, we can actually deploy, you put it together, you slide it out, you put it together, you slide it out. It's actually pretty interesting. You think about the old World War II Bailey Bridge is exactly what it is.
That's cool.
I think
that would be
Commissioner
something.
Trask, you had forwarded, I think, one of the reps or manufacturers of a similar type bridge a while back, yeah.
Over the years, we've saved a lot of money by planning ahead and having redundancy in certain things, by making sure we have extra ones. In our sewer system, we bought a bunch of extra pumps, which saves us huge amounts of money in the long run, and also allowed us to replace it like that for better service and saving money.
And we have, you rehabbed some bridge decks, so we have two out in the yard for quick deployment. And then, like Mike said, we were looking at purchasing another to have on hand as well.
Something we could deploy ourselves and not have to wait for a contract.
Yeah, and big hats off to Mike and team. They're always looking and planning ahead and sourcing
They've saved us a
these
lot of
types
money
of
over the
materials
years.
well ahead so that we can be in good position. Good job.
Appreciate it.
Yes, very much.
Lot to do.
Yeah, there is a lot.
That's for sure. And then you have 2 discussion topics?
Yeah, just real quickie, just wanted to update the commission that once a year TIPCAP elects their new chair and vice chair, and they elected Will as the chair, Will Harris, and Phil Wolf as the vice chair, and Phil was the chair previously and did a great job. I think that one of the things that I appreciated about the committee last year was that they really made a conscious effort to get more out in the community. They always did on an individual basis and definitely did a great job that way, but in terms of attending more community meetings and
having
community meetings. And so I think they're, I know, they're looking towards expanding that next year as well. So we'll definitely keep you posted about when those meetings are happening and keep you in the loop that way. And yeah, as a matter of fact, one is on the 22nd, so the North Mason Chamber Luncheon. And so TIPCAP will be presenting, and I'll be attending there as well. So
That's awesome.
you're absolutely welcome to pop in on that if you like.
I looked at it, but I will be at a LSC meeting, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then just a quickie update on Southside School. We had followed up and met with them. One of the things is just kind of an interim measure that we'd identified was limbing up some trees along a walking path and then doing some work to blade that out and eliminate some of the conflict that occurs where both the school kids were crossing and parents were trying to get in and out of the parking areas. So that's in progress. The district
Speed enforcement, because I know that there was people driving through there rather quickly.
Yeah.
And so, do you know, I guess that's more of a question for the
Yeah.
sheriff's office. But
Yep, and Sheriff Sperling attended the meeting as well. And I know that they were having an increased presence. I believe some of the deputies, or a deputy lives in the
He does.
community as well.
Yeah.
So there was that. But he also emphasized that when you're on the ground, speeds look faster than they actually are too. So, and we also talked about just communicating with the neighborhood, having some increased communication, because it's a fairly small community. So it's neighbors talking with neighbors about, right, tone it down, keep your speed down, keep our children safe. So anywho, the district worked with the property owner, and they had some volunteers limb up the trees, and we came out and picked up the debris, hauled that off, and we'll do some grading there. There's a little bit of additional work. We can't do any paving or anything. It's obviously not that time of year to do that. But at some point, we need to do a little bit more right-of-way investigation in that area, and basically reestablish the existing crosswalk, which was a safer location for the kids to cross. I believe we also provided some information about the flashing crossing signs for the school district to get those purchased, the solar lights. And we talked with them. Yeah, they're actually relatively inexpensive. I mean, that it's all relative, yeah. But they aren't too bad. And so I know the district was looking into that. We would most likely be doing the placement to make sure that they're placed in the correct location and all of that business. And then we also talked about having dedicated crossing guards, that they're out there with flags and stopping the traffic, and making sure that the students are crossing. So those are all things that are in the works, and have happened. So
appreciate you working
still
with
a work in
Southside.
progress, obviously, but biting off what we can at this time and making improvements, safety improvements out there. And then the only other thing, I did take a call right before our meeting from Rob Toms, who is the government affairs representative from Lumen. And I had reached out to Lumen about the status of the repair out in Satsop Maple Glen neck of the woods. And he was not familiar with exactly where the outage was, and explained that part of the challenge for the telephone companies is that they don't have this big outage map, like PUD, they say here's an outage and it's quick to see and everybody knows. He said it's very, very old school, archaic, that somebody has to call in to their hotline or their customer repair line with an address that says, I don't have service. And then maybe another person will say the same thing, and then maybe somebody will put it together like, here's an outage in this area. And so it's challenging in that respect. So anywho, I gave him a couple of addresses to check out, because I don't know where exactly. And he said that he would respond back today with how soon the repair could take place. But I know that Mark also forwarded some information to you commissioners about, in general, the copper wire, old telephone service is going to be phased out in the next 10, 15 years or so. And so part of it is helping our folks understand what that looks like and what other options there might be for them. The gentleman from Lumen Government Affairs, however, said, we know this is some people's only service, period, and we know the importance of maintaining service, and we will do whatever we can to get it restored as quickly as possible. But you also saw that there are challenges with that, whether it be just supply or contractor challenges, just getting resources there. There's a lot of things that
Do
can
you find him to
slow
be
the
truly
roll.
accessible? For example, if we were to start to get these addresses, can we just go through you and try to get them done?
Yeah, he
I don't
seemed
have
to
go
be
war with him.
incredibly
I'd rather just get it
responsive.
fixed. That's the most important.
Yeah, and he explained that, that if for some reason folks aren't getting satisfaction, so the UTC regulates our telecommunication folks, they could certainly file a complaint with the UTC, but what that does is usually result in a fine. It doesn't necessarily solve the problem of service
And it doesn't
itself.
get to them, and they're on
Yeah.
the phone forever, and they get disconnected, they can't,
Yes.
they don't have a phone. I know
Yes.
this firsthand, 'cause I keep hearing from my people up there in Tahuya and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So if we have a
Incredibly.
direct line that we can call, you know, as an intermediary, then
Yeah.
maybe that's how we help them.
Yep.
I'm
So
open.
anyway, I found him to be very responsive, and frankly, the person that I spoke with last time with Inland, up on the Tahuya, they were as well. It's just putting the pieces together, and it's just a clunky old system.
Well, again, whether we get satisfaction, it's just like that recording, your business is important to us. As you're waiting online for
Right.
45 minutes and due
Exactly.
to high call volume, yeah, right, it's not high call, you just didn't hire anybody to do it, because our business is important.
I had
Yeah.
an opportunity to speak with somebody from CenturyLink
Uh-huh.
up in Belfair.
Oh, good.
And she said, well, one of the big problems is if they can't get the cable they need to
Yes.
fix the stuff. It just, you know, there's just no, they can't do anything until the supplier sends it to them, so.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that this gentleman said that the telecommunication companies now are far more cooperative. It used to be, you know, this is my turf, this is my territory. You don't even know, we're not talking to you. He said that it's all about the content that they're streaming now, and so they're not fighting over space and turf and lines. So they're much more cooperative about, do you have some wire? Do you have a new circuit board? Do you have this and that? Because they're in the same boat, basically, and it really doesn't matter at this point because it's the content that they're selling. So I thought that was interesting and encouraging.
They don't really know when they're actually going to be able to get the cable, if ever.
Yeah,
So they're,
yeah, tough.
they're in a bad position as far as that
Yes,
goes.
yes, which is why if we can help encourage folks about other options, and help them be aware of those, and hopefully they are reasonable in terms of cost,
Right.
which is not always the case, or the service doesn't exist yet. So that's why the efforts like the fiber hoods and expanding
We invest a lot of
broadband.
money to do those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, is helpful and important. All right, that's all I've got on that business.
And I thought it was kind of ironic that
Oh.
MRSC, or WASAC sent out
Yes.
the link to MRSC's information on
Uh-huh,
telecommunications, and so I thought,
yeah,
that
we're,
was, so other people are having the same issues.
absolutely, yes. And this gentleman from Lumen Government Affairs said the same thing. He said, you may think that it's somewhat unique or you're having issues, but he goes, Mason County really is not the hot spot. It may feel like it, but in terms of other copper thefts and damage and issues, there's lots of communities, obviously not just in Washington, but throughout the nation that are coping with the same thing.
Right.
I spoke with Dan Griffey about possible legislation on that sort of stuff. We were talking about, I moved up here from Arizona, and this was 20 some odd years ago. We had the same problem down there, but they just made it illegal for the people buying it with heavy duty fines if the person selling it didn't have proof of ownership. So they had to prove that you've got this surplus copper, great. Why do you have it?
Right, where'd it
And
come
it
from?
really quickly stopped the stealing of copper, because it's a lot of work to steal that copper, and then to not be able to sell it. So.
If only they would work as hard.
Right.
Legal work?
And any work, just they get more money, because some of the stuff, they get so little out of fiber optics, but they're still taking that too.
Well, it's must be paying somewhere else, I'm thinking, because you're right, if you and I just walked in, copper prices are, you're not getting paid a lot for copper. But you hear that copper in general is not available, readily available, and so it is a premium commodity. The other thing that we heard from another Lumen representative is that most of these folks they're well organized. It's not just an individual, one or two here doing their thing, that they're actually crime rings,
They have their own bucket
organized. Yeah, exactly. Yes, very well organized,
Saw
and so
that.
that's why you
Yeah.
have
Pictures, yeah.
Homeland Security, and you have the FBI and others that are looking into.
And it's across jurisdictions.
Yes.
So that makes it even
Yes.
more difficult to prosecute and to
Yeah.
track down. And
Yep. Yeah. So, fun challenges.
oh, you want 3 minutes? Oh, okay. All right, we're going to take a 3-minute break, and then we'll be back with support services.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, let's hit it. Well, not really, so. Mark?
All right, thank you. First, I got TJ here to talk to you about some testing that we're going to do for cybersecurity.
Yep. So on Wednesday, the 15th at 11 a.m. is our cyber test. We're going to drop the network, strategically drop the network, which will impact all computers, all phones, basically all forms of communication. We will be isolating MaceCom and leaving them alone, so they'll still be operational. And I have spoken to the sheriff. The sheriff, I gave veto power on this. If there's any kind of public safety issue, they have the right to shut this down. So the purpose of the test is to have people evaluate, you know, their normal job processes. If this is a real event, how they can continue to operate and provide the services they're required to provide. So we're asking that a representative from each department meet in this room 30 minutes after the event starts. This is what we'd want during a real event, so we have some way to get information out to people and kind of debrief everyone what's happening. We will be posting it on the website as well as Facebook, so public will know that we are going to go through this hour-long test, so no one's alarmed. This is only a test. And we're asking that all management after the fact meet with their staff and go through a lessons learned meeting. Because I fully expect there to be some processes that people never even thought of, that, you know, oh, we can't do this and this is a major problem. So once everyone works through that, then I'm sure we'll hear some more back on how everything went. And it's a good learning lesson for us too, and my staff, of, you know, how to properly shut down the network in case we really need to, and how to bring it back up. So it'll be interesting.
How are you getting the information out to all the directors or the electeds?
I've had email out to all of them. Almost every director or manager has filled out a form that I developed for them to go through and work through the process of, you know, their required services they're providing, alternative communication methods, all that. So I have all that from them. I've met with them. We've worked through that process a little bit. So they're at least prepped a little bit up front, and then, you know, we'll see what happens when the real thing comes. That's the ultimate way to learn. So.
Do you need help encouraging folks to participate?
Most everyone has been responded.
And talking about it in the IT committee meeting where we've been planning this process, for those that are not, they're gonna find out what really happens when their system shuts down and they're unable to operate. As far as it should not be a surprise to anyone.
No.
TJ has sent out a number of emails. We've sent out a lot of communications planning this process and notifying people when it's gonna happen. So I think if they didn't think it was gonna impact them, so they didn't need to respond, they will actually find out what the impact is.
Who's taking the odds and the bets on how many are gonna be calling and not knowing that it's happening?
Now the phones will be down, they can't
Yeah.
call anyway, so.
Or coming down.
Knocks on your door.
Yeah, all of our phone system goes through that.
Yeah, and last Thursday, I sent out a countywide to every employee, notifying them of what is happening and everything, so, and their involvement in it. So everyone should be fully aware of what's happening, and hopefully it's a successful test and a good learning opportunity, so.
But I mean, to actually be able to handle somebody at the counter manually,
Right.
Yeah.
good process to figure out. How do we do that? Do we have all the
Does that
information?
affect Jazz too? So the courts? Yeah.
Javs is actually a local system, so it would still be able to record during that time. It's every system's housed inside the courtroom, it doesn't leave it.
Okay.
So yeah, they would still be able to do court recordings. There's a few different systems like that that are isolated that will continue to work. And jail cameras should continue to work. So that's all by design, so.
Personally, I think this is a great job for the chair. I have 2 meetings.
You have 2 meetings?
I do, one at noon and one at 1 o'clock.
Oh, so you'll be unable to be here at 11:30?
That's okay.
Oh, I'm here anyway, so.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
always
hoping you're
here.
gonna volunteer, that's all.
No, I was planning on being there.
The courts actually had an outage,
Yes.
right, in December that lasted a couple of weeks. And so they kind of got a preliminary test associated with how this works, with their scheduling and all of that. And so it was access to information.
With AOC.
Yeah, AOC, yeah. So it was, they kind of got a preliminary test. So I think they'll probably be the ones that are most prepared for this.
They'll get the star.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
that's all I got. Any questions?
No, I'm really happy that you're doing this. Any questions?
Important to do,
Yep.
so. And we don't know how much of an impact it is until it happens, and so it'll be great to kind of be able to gauge that, and then what I'm hopeful of is that individuals take it, after they learn the impact on their operations, they actually just start developing alternative ways to operate in case we did go down.
When we go down.
When we go down, yeah.
It's gonna happen.
The odds are better than an earthquake. I mean, it will happen at some point. It's just a matter of time.
We've seen many of our, not neighboring counties, but counties within Washington state, that got impacted by a cyber event where they had to shut down.
Right.
And they had to operate manually for 3 weeks.
Yep.
Well, and a good test was that email. It wasn't really a test, though.
This morning.
This morning.
Yeah. Yep, we had a little email run through everything, a couple people clicked on it, and
You got me.
a couple alerts, and we hopped in, cleaned it all up, and an hour later, I think we're in good shape, so.
Good. Good.
Caught it
Our
quick.
Albert sensor
Albert
actually
sensor alerted twice.
alerted us twice, which is good. We know it's working.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That was a
I
very
just,
real.
I just never believe them when they
Yeah.
send me stuff through it, that's why I literally don't. And then if I have questions, I would usually just send something through Mackenzie and say, is this real? Do you have something for me? And more often than not, it's a no.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is they want you to sign something for the county, and when you're the chair, and turns out that's not right either. So I send that all to Mackenzie, and she says, nope, it hasn't been briefed yet. Nope.
Yep.
Yep. I like the little fish.
Yeah.
You can just click on that.
Yeah.
Quick and easy.
Yeah, so good reminder for folks.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder in the sense that these bad actors are actually getting better and better. It used to be misspellings and looked weird, and so you might not think that it's real. They're actually getting pretty good at convincing
The
people.
one this morning was very real.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, and I mean, the landscape shifts a little bit now from trying to prevent things to trying to isolate them when they do happen. Because they know that everything's getting so good that you just try to lock it down as soon as it happens as quickly as you can, because you're not gonna stop it, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you, TJ.
Yeah, thank you.
So our next item is Nicole talking about claim for damages.
Yeah, I've got three different ones. Yeah, the first one, back in 2023, we had modified, the Human Resources Building had modified our hours to the 8 to 4 time. However, the claims for damages resolution wasn't updated to those hours, and neither was the Municode, so this resolution would amend that resolution to change the hours of operation to the correct time.
Okay.
And
That was
that'll
easy.
go on the 21st.
Yes, I'm requesting 21st for these, yes.
So is that just one resolution?
One resolution for that, that would change the Municode as well.
Okay.
And then the second item I have is recommending an amendment to the designation of the ADA coordinator resolution, and also that would, recommendation would change the Municode as well, designating the risk manager as the ADA coordinator. In the past, it's been our facilities manager or support services director in the past, and it needed to be updated, and just going and doing some research and whatnot, by designating the risk manager, they already are working closely with the policies, and they are already familiar with the statutes, and so it kind of just, sorry, I always do this every time. So it just helps effectively manage the, when we get these types of ADA grievances or ADA inquiries.
Right. Typically, that's gonna go to the risk manager.
Yes,
KAU anyway, right?
Correct.
Now, we used to actually meet as a ADA group as well. We haven't done it in a while.
An ADA, that's something that I've never actually been involved in since I've been here
Yeah,
either.
we did, it went
so-
through the auditor's office, because he just had it initially set up for voting and the like, but it ended up capturing all things that were ADA, including, which is funny, a button in Braille to show you where the elevator is, on the elevator. So if you could find the button with the Braille, you found the elevator. But we put a thing on the door instead, that helped.
So another change that we're making now is the safety officer used to fall under Nicole, and we're moving that over to emergency management. So John Taylor's putting together information on countywide safety issues, right? We haven't had a lot of activity and involvement from our offices and departments within the safety committee, so it's important to get that going again. And so that is a piece of it that John is going to pick up and do. I would imagine if there were ADA concerns that they would potentially come through that safety committee also, so
I would expect
the
them to.
coordination with
Yeah.
Nicole is going to be important.
The ADA committee was made up of, headed by the auditor, different departments, but also had a citizen, Kevin Frankenberger, is still around, he was on it,
I know, yeah.
and a few others, and,
That was specific to elections though, wasn't it?
no. You would
That
think
was
it.
more specific,
Yeah,
though.
you would think it would be, but it turned out to be the catch-all for all things ADA over the years.
Okay.
We talked about everything that was coming up.
In all of our
But that's
buildings,
because
not just.
others were involved in the meeting and stuff like that.
I could
Well,
certainly,
now Nicole can do that.
yeah, no, I mean,
I
yeah.
think it was
I
Don
think-
Twitty back then that
Wait.
was,
So I don't want to talk for you, but I do believe that the auditor does have responsibility to maintain an ADA committee
yeah,
as part of their elections
yes,
responsibilities.
they do.
So,
Yeah, that's correct, but I think it's separate from what
This.
Yeah.
land use
Correct.
director
No, it
does.
just became,
Oh, it became that?
yeah, it became that because they were already all there.
Yeah.
Everybody from the county was there, so why not use it? And they did, and we just fixed
And
things.
so that we still have that committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, yeah.
You wanna
we
be a part of it,
Yeah.
Nicole?
yeah.
Yeah, add it on there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so this was just the recommendation is to, HR and risk does handle the personnel part of the ADA as well as this, and then, yeah, it does end up going over to risk anyway.
But I still support it. 'Cause-
Okay, appreciate it.
But like I said, they're separate, but it would be smart to capitalize on it.
100%, yeah, I'll definitely start doing the research, and if you wanna send me that and include me in
Yeah,
that,
well, it's the voter accessibility committee.
okay, Perfect. And then also on this is, with that is recommending, and it's to update our ADA grievance process and our ADA grievance, and then the notice under the Americans with Disability Act, and these attachments to get dispersed throughout every building within the county.
So it'll be important to coordinate with Public Works on this also, because Public Works has new requirements associated with ADA and federal grants that they receive.
Okay.
So we'll have to make sure that we want to communicate all of the work that we're doing to recognize the challenges that we often face with ADA-related things and the processes that we have in place. So once you get these updated, if you could send a copy to Loretta, that would be great.
You bet. Yes, yes, I will. Okay, and so now the last item I had, and this one is the one that Mark was speaking of earlier, and this is a recommendation to amend the resolution for the WCRP member county appointments and designations. So this is to remove former Commissioner Schutte from as the alternate director, and then designate that alternate director position to Commissioner Pat, and then removing Kelly Frazier and as the safety officer, and then adding the DEM manager John Taylor as the safety officer, and then additionally to the other thing was just to update some position titles in there, and so. Yeah, that's what this recommendation, and that's what Mark was talking about with the safety officers, the, with coordination with risk now is taking over that safety component.
And Commissioner Randy's also still the.
Yes, and he is still, sorry, thank you for, those were the only changes. So yes, Commissioner Randy is the board of directors. It still lists you as the alternate, myself as the alternate as well.
But this would add Pat.
Yes, it would add Pat, and then remove Kelly and add John Taylor.
Yep.
I'm supportive.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
Jen, you want to jump into your budget stuff, or are you going to present?
Yes. So the first thing that I have is the budget amendment calendar for 2025. And we, too many things open always.
I got used to the computer for this one.
Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Oh, okay.
She's got to find it.
I know.
It doesn't look like I see the budget calendar opened.
Got it open.
So this is the total wrap-up too, right, for December?
It's a wrap.
The December financials will be the next topic, yeah.
So the way that our meetings are scheduled for 2025, I put on this calendar one budget amendment public hearing for June 24th, and that works out well. The second one on December 9th, I would recommend that we add a meeting on December 16th or after, just so that we have time to advertise, get the resolution adopted. Right now, we would have to adopt the resolution October 28th in order to get it advertised for 2 weeks, which is required by the RCW, which means that departments would have to get their requests in by October 13th, and it's really hard to predict for, close to 3 months what's going to happen. Sometimes, which departments are going to need amendments. So that's why I would recommend adding an additional meeting sometime in the second half of December.
So on the 16th.
Or later.
I'm just looking at the holidays.
I'm available on like the 24th or the 25th.
Christmas Day.
Yes, I'll be here.
Yeah, I'll be available.
Commissioner.
Have no
That's
problem.
the evil eye. For the 16th?
9th or 16th, yeah.
Okay.
Well, the
I like-
9th, we already have a meeting.
Oh, you already have one on the
Yeah,
ninth?
so
Okay.
we would have to put another meeting on.
Oh, you'd have to actually, Mackenzie would have to set up a special meeting for the 16th, okay.
Now, if it's not needed, we can always cancel.
Mhm.
Well, it would
Do you
be
think it would be
needed.
needed?
Yeah, because of the timing.
Okay.
Because if we add that, then we can adopt the resolution on November 18th, which gives departments, I would request that they would have their information in November 3rd, and that would be adequate time as opposed to October 13th, when it would be
Gives them a
due.
little bit more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
So-
you have people pulling their hair out.
Yeah, it definitely would not be canceled. I mean, we've never not had budget amendment requests, especially in the second budget amendment of the year, the second scheduled one. So, I mean, we could move the December 9th meeting to December 16th. That might be an option, or something that we want to look at.
Personally, I'm not worried about it. We're gonna do whatever it's gonna need at the time. I appreciate that you're doing everything so early, but we'll all have forgotten. We'll just go by whatever you tell us.
One thing that, now that we're on calendars, one thing, and this is for Commissioner Tarswell, so we had a briefing from our prosecuting attorney this morning, and he's bringing forward a decision that's going to impact his budget to the tune of, let's say, $10,000. Normally, what Jen would do is she monitors his budget and works with them throughout the year. If they actually have savings somewhere else and they don't need a budget amendment, that's fine. But if it looks like they're going to need a budget amendment, then that's when she would officially capture those in the budget on these two dates. Because we only do 2 a year.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Used to be, when I first started, it seemed like it was every 2 weeks. We just hit the budget. I'm not kidding you. And they were hitting us up the next week for more money after we had done it. So.
Yeah, very, very
we've come a long way.
inefficient.
Yeah, I like the way that we do things now.
Yeah, it definitely, I don't know how they had the time to do that before, because
All
it's
the
a really
notices,
time-consuming process.
And retention, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we good with that?
Okay, thank you. So my next item is the 2024.
Just ignore it. He's not actually there. You see nothing.
You're making us giggle. It's good.
The 2024 financials, so beginning with the current expense revenue.
I see 500,000. That's why I was asking, are these closed numbers for the year completely done and closed, or is there still some outstanding?
They are done and closed unless Leo makes any adjustments. So that's a possibility, but most likely not to cash. That's really unusual. So.
Well, then we need to figure out why the clerk's office, what was it, 100K? I was looking at there, and a few others. Just get a description of why the revenues didn't come in that we had expected to make sure that we have that captured for the next year. Because I got about 500K that I looked at. Therapeutic court, that's a big chunk, 226,000. That.
Yeah, therapeutic courts, I think they didn't have the treatment sales tax expenditures that they had originally planned on, I believe. I'm not sure, which means that they would get less revenue in. So I think that's a big part of theirs. I'll check on the clerks.
Child support enforcement, another 50K. 84 for the auditor's office.
Yeah. Emergency
66.
management.
Yeah, did we get grants that we didn't come in?
We did get grants that came in. I'd have to look into the detail of it and see exactly what it was for.
If we could just maybe reach out and get a brief description, would be appreciated.
Okay.
Yeah, I think sometimes the timing of the grants is off because they're typically the state's July to June schedule. And so, you know, depending on when they're expended and received, yeah, it could just be a timing thing. But yeah, I'll check on those. So for December, or through December of this year, we have received $48,254,000 in revenue in the general fund compared to last year, $45,869,600, and we're at 106% of our budgeted revenue this year compared to 107% last year. We ended up having, we transferred 485,000, I believe it was, in ARPA funds into the general fund to bill against law enforcement and other administrative salaries and benefits.
Okay.
And we also had about 250,000 additional that wasn't budgeted for in community development for the same type of thing, salaries and benefits, just to get that billed out in 2024. In the treasurer's office, we received through December $31,991,966 compared to last year $31,424,423. We're at 109% of our revenue, budgeted revenue this year compared to 111% last year. We over collected in our interest earnings.
We earned more than we budgeted.
Yes.
Not over collected,
No.
right?
I mean, yeah, we didn't.
Interest rates
overcollect,
were way up, so we
Yes.
did well.
Yes, thank you for that correction.
I like doing
Good
well.
terminology. So that's a big chunk of the amount that we collected over the budget. In the current expenditures, we expended in the general fund $48,917,407 compared to the previous year, last year, $45,038. We're at 90% of our budgeted expenditures this year compared to 92% last year. And nobody went over budget again, so so that is great in salaries and benefits or operating. So I'm very happy about that.
That's cool.
But pretty significant, right? At 10%, we spent 10% less than we budgeted. So these are important points that when we're thinking about 2025 budgets and we see a $12.3 million difference, realize that as long as we continue to underspend what we budget and over collect what we budget, then that won't be as bad.
But when we make the mistake of budgeting that way, it comes back to haunt us as it had in the past. And there's other things that occur that we gotta keep in mind. Like, we'll see that the numbers of cash on hand, so we run on cash. The cash on hand, we didn't go back as bad as we thought maybe though, because it's a little less than 1 million backwards from what we thought. But we also had, it shows like, it looks like 2 million on current expense unreserved cash because the world itself catches up with it. What happens is our budget gets bigger and we have a percentage of budget that we set aside. So therefore, we have less cash to work with, $2 million less cash to work with than we had the year before. So there's two different parts of that.
I think the reason it went up was the reasons that Jen gave earlier with the transfers in for the ARPA funds and then the $200,000 that she talked about. So that was about 600,000 more than what I think we were originally projecting. Is that right?
We ended up using out of cash in 2024 a little less than 700,000. So yeah, the ARPA funds definitely helped with that gap not being larger than that. And we won't have that again this year. But one thing about the 2025 budget that we've never had in the past, 2024 was close, but in 2025 we had all of our contracts, or almost all of them, done and budgeted for, and that's never happened. So anyway, that's
good for us.
a big change from past years.
Yeah.
So moving on to
Positive change.
Yeah, for sure. The special fund 6-year recap. So the community development revenues. It looks like it's so much larger than last year, but a lot of that is that ARPA transfer, that about 250,000 is the additional ARPA transfer in there, so, I mean, even though their revenues are looking really good. Most everything else is up over the previous year or years, including REIT, which is great. Looks good. The county sales tax, we received a total of $9,857,799 for 2024, and we budgeted 9.2 million. So that looks great. We budgeted 9.5 in 2025. And so every year, I mean, we've collected, you know, a little bit more each year, but that's starting to shrink a little bit. The percentages this year, I mean, we've received about 2.6% more than last year, where the previous year it was like closer to 5%. So, and in years prior it was like 10% or more. On the 6-year financial recap, the cash at the end of the year was 26.863 million, and we had budgeted 26.6 million. So very happy with how close that came in to the estimate. So that's hard to do when you're budgeting in, you know, July, August, September, to get the cash that close. So so good for us, right? The budgeted revenue received, again, is 106% in the current expense fund, and then our expenditures, again, were at 90%. So that's the recap there. The special fund cash balances are shown here. And the total at the end of December was 63,763,000 in our special funds, and that's well above the previous 5 years. So most of our special funds are doing well as well. The motor pool, we expended 74.82% of our budget, but we are waiting for a lot of vehicles to come in. I think close to like 20 vehicles.
Wow.
Yeah. So
are they white or?
They're a mixture of white and PPVs, police pursuit
Predominantly
vehicles.
PPVs, so right?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of them are sitting at the SPS, waiting to get upfitted, and we don't get billed for them until we get them. So
Until we receive them.
yeah. So so this year we might need an amendment if those come pouring in. So we will see how that looks. I'll start digging into that more. Okay. For our special fund revenues, we received through December, 60,374,000 in our special funds. We received 58,316,000 or 17,000 last year. We're at 86% of our budgeted revenue this year compared to 91% last year. The special funds really aren't as comparable as like from year to year as the general fund, because that's where most of our capital is paid out of, so it fluctuates from year to year. So they're not as static as, you know, the expenditures aren't as static as in the general fund.
That's why they're special.
Right, exactly. And then the expenditures for the special funds, we expended 54,648,000 last year, and then the previous year 53,742,000, and both years were at 67% of our expenditures, which is a little weird. For the county debt, we have, at the end of December, we owe $16,860,198.
Before we go to there, I want to go back a little bit and just share some information so that we're all on the same page on a few things. Some of the things to note, I wanted to find out, the 14 million on the road fund, did we put it in the budget and move a couple million this time?
Yeah, we
So we
did. We ended up moving, I believe it was an additional $2 million, which would make that road fund cash balance, reserved cash balance for new roads, $6.5 million, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
that's what I thought, just double checking. Also, for us to keep note of, the public health fund is growing very, very large. Mental health, there's been quite a adjustment in there.
Well, I think that the one of those funds is going to be tapped into, right? For the 200,000?
TST is
The
what he
TST.
was actually wondering, and that's
What about for the
for
the rig?
64. So the mental health fund and it, yeah. So that was the fund that he was proposing to pay that out of, not public health. I think that the public health cash balance is predominantly a result of the new foundational public health model of funding that the state's doing, where they're providing us some cash up front to operate.
Right, but I thought that Dave was talking about, I think maybe for the vehicle, the van that he wants to get.
The mobile van?
Yeah.
That's changed a couple times since I've talked to him, so.
Yeah.
It has
It's gotten
changed.
smaller, yeah. I'm not sure.
But it's just important that we keep it in our minds that, because they're gonna come to us over the year. So a 4.7 million public health fund, another 2.5 million in the mental health. Another thing to keep in mind as they're coming for equipment is the equipment rental and revolving fund has gone up to 6.3 million. That is for the equipment, stuff like that on the public works side.
Right. The other thing I think it's important to keep, and I was asking Jen about it this morning, because as I look at these numbers, I like text her questions and she has to research them right away and figure them out before the meeting. But the opioid settlement money that we received,
Right.
you know, a little over $1 million that's sitting in Fund 150, and that money needs to be spent. We actually.
But that's specific, that's restricted funds,
Very
right?
restricted,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that we also share with the city.
Correct, the city took their settlement money and gave it to us in order to apply it towards a proper opioid expense.
Right, okay.
We need to figure out what that is though, moving forward, start working on it.
We do, yeah.
We have some opportunities. Did you have another question, Commissioner?
Nope, I just wanted to get it out so we're all on the same page when they're
Okay.
coming for us asking for money, so we can keep track of things together.
All right, so that's all that I have for you if you don't have any questions.
No. I appreciate your presentation. It's come,
Thank you.
it's come a long way. I just love it.
Okay.
It's easy for my tiny little brain to understand.
So I have a topic that I did not put on your agenda, but I need to talk to you guys about. So, you know, we did our reorganization and kind of a planned reorganization. We went out and attempted to hire a new parks manager and didn't find anybody that really met the criteria that we were looking for. And so, since our IT manager position is not filled and our parks manager position is not filled, I wanted to make sure that those individuals that are receiving lead pay continue to receive lead pay because they're doing that work. So there's a number of them, actually TJ's one of them in IT, and Bud Carl Olson in our Parks Department is really managing the Parks Department. John Taylor is becoming more and more involved in parks now, and so as he takes him away from emergency management. Tammy Wright was also impacted by that, and so we've had those three positions that I need to get on the agenda so that those individuals don't lose that lead pay. And I would propose that we keep it in place until we move forward and find replacements or find manager positions. And we have fill the manager positions that were created with the reorg. So
Our
if-
IT guy, is kind of important.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't, he may not turn it back on after he shuts it off on Wednesday. So, yeah, we might want to keep him happy at least through Wednesday. So if you don't mind, I'd like to put that on the agenda for the 21st, yeah. I've talked with payroll about it and let them know that I'm working on it. And they're the ones that helped me identify that they ended at the end of the year, and I didn't realize that they ended, so kind of chasing my tail a
Maybe
little bit
Central
to get it all done. Chris Pinkston, is that how you pronounce it? Pinkston? Over in HR, he was doing the NeoGov implementation. And so that is actually going to be implemented, hopefully, by the end of this month.
Yeah, he said within a couple of weeks, so by the end of the
Within a
month.
couple of weeks, so I'd like his to continue just in January, at least until that project's complete. Once that project is complete, then we can remove it.
So does that change his job duty? So after it's completed, is that a job duty that will he be managing that or no?
No, not under my.
No, the implementation side of it is additional workload that he's taking on, and so we are compensating him for that additional workload. Once it's implemented, then everybody uses it, but it's actually up and running, and so we could take that away.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that once it's implemented, it's kind of how like when we launched the Core 360, the intention is going to be for each of the department heads to manage, or the electeds to be able to manage their own department's training and whatnot, but that's the goal. So, no, he will not continue managing it from our understanding.
So the other item that I wanted to give you an update on is that I actually had a meeting with Becky Conquist from our Housing Authority last week. So we're kind of scheduling to bring a briefing forward on February 3rd, I believe, is the date that we agreed on. She's going to give the commissioners an update. The Housing Authority has gone through quite a few changes over the last few years. Definitely moving in what appears to be the right direction, but they need some assistance. And so they have some really interesting plans to potentially create some additional housing opportunities, which the housing opportunities that they provide are super essential. And looking at our housing needs assessment that we just did for our county, this is one of the critical areas that we don't have housing in. So they actually have an opportunity to potentially build a couple more buildings. I think it was by their, it wasn't Goldsboro, it was the other one. What's the other one? The other cove.
The name just.
Do you remember it, Randy, off the top of your head? I'm sorry. Put you on the spot.
Names, the one thing they're gonna hit me on,
Beards
no.
No.
It's utility.
They call
So
it
anyways,
coves.
they have,
So
I don't think it was
but-
Goldsboro, but,
No,
no.
no.
This is, we're talking housing authority, the buildings, that's okay, yeah, not utilities. So they actually have the opportunity on the land to actually build another one. They've already talked with an engineering firm that put together some draft plans, and they presented them to the city, and the city said, absolutely, go for it, build it. Now they're working on trying to find funding to go get money to actually build it. So they have an executive director that they're currently employing, and they're gonna be coming back and asking the commissioners for some external support from the county to help them
One of
continue
the
to
things to
fund
keep
that.
in mind with that we should consider is, they're gonna have a hard time getting the startup money because of the utilities and stuff like that. We've talked about it ourselves, about the idea or possibilities of having exemptions or reduced rate for certain things such as a mental health ward or whatever that are essential services. Low-income housing could be one of them. If we set up our policy, they can mirror it at the city. It's something to consider so that we can help to spur that. There's a big difference between doing it that way with a tax, with a forgiveness than it is to
Give them money.
yeah, give them the money, correct. So it's something that we can do with still staying within our parameters of government without just giving away the people's money.
So I'll bring those details to you on February 3rd. So I noticed that Becky had already emailed me some documentation associated with it. So her and I will get that put together, and The question I had for you is that normally in briefings, it's internal staff people, but I'd like to invite Becky to come, and possibly their executive director, Dan, to come and answer any questions that you guys might have about the Housing Authority. So if you guys are okay with that, I'd extend that invitation for February 3rd.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Jen, can you look at your 6-year financial recap for me for a minute? Can you give me a roll down of what the current expense unreserved cash is going to be after this year's budget? And it'll probably go up during the year. I'm keeping track of them because that's where the real hits are showing.
12.3 million.
No, that's different.
So, I mean, looking at what's happened in the past and over the previous 6 years, I would think that our cash balance at this point in time looks like, is that what you're asking?
No, that's not what I meant. It's hard to explain there both without seeing it. So currently, right now, we had a general operating reserve for 2024 of 11,200,000. That was based on how much our budget is. What would it be based on that?
That's based on how much our actual previous year's expenditures are. And
So what would that be for 2025?
so for 2025,
Are you looking at the 6-year recap?
Yes. But I'm going one step further to the next year to
You're
figure
projecting
out
out
what
for
the
the
general
end of
fund
2020.
operating reserve, because we've got it written down somewhere when we started.
I'm guessing it'd be around 6 million.
Well, it's gotta be more than that, because we're already at 11.2.
it's going to be roughly 12.
Expenditures there.
It would be like 13.6.
Okay, so at 13.6, that's almost 2.4 million out of the 7,700,000. So that brings us down to 5 million. We'll just say 5.5 million for unreserved cash, regardless of what happens. So we move back 700,000 this year. Next year, if we're lucky, we're gonna drop 4. If we're lucky.
If you're lucky, I think you'll drop. That's what I said, 6.
Yeah, I know. So with that, that would mean that what I've been trying to tell you is the next year, going on the cycle, there will be no unreserved cash. So there's only one option if we don't do the adjustments, and that is to go into reserved cash. That's what I've been worried about, and that's why I just wanted to share that because it's in front of us here. And this was a great example for me to show you what I've been talking about. That's what I'm worried about.
No, and I think we've been talking about that since we did the budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely something I think we need to keep in the front of our eyes. And Jen does a great job of it because she tells us every month how we're doing,
Well,
so.
and I also want to make sure that other departments, other electeds understand that also. There's, if you don't need to spend it, don't spend it.
I mean, we'll see. I think that a lot of the changes that we've made within the last year have been to try and attract and retain people. A large portion of our unspent expenditures are related to vacant positions. So if we're successful in attracting and retaining quality staff to provide some of these essential functions, then you may not see a 10%, right? We spent 90% of our budgeted expenditures, so.
I don't have it in front of me, I have to go look for it again, but that accounts for 1.8, I think, in the sheriff's department this year with for cash coming back, of which next year you can't expect that. Because what we did, there'll probably be half, they'll be turning back 6.
The important part will be for them to manage the Nisqually contract and make sure that they're not sending a bunch of people and keeping them in
Well, I'd
Nisqually.
like to get the people out of Nisqually and back in our jail, which they should.
And I think that that's their intent. Talking with Kevin Hansen, that's his intent. He just needs to get the people hired, trained, and brought up to speed so that he can actually have his minimum staffing of 4 people per shift, I think.
So speaking of hiring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great transition to one of my my request. So I'm using OneNote now. Man, I love that, but I need a class
All right.
or something,
Let me know.
because
I use it all the time, so.
I know that I am not using it the way that it should be used. But, so we've got, I know about a year ago, we got a resignation notice for a position over in community development.
Uh-huh.
So that's a critical position, I think.
Yep.
So I'd love to get that advertised.
Okay.
And get somebody hired so that there is some succession.
Some cross-training?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so then, also, we talked about animal control before too, and that was put on your shoulders.
Yep, I hope to have, they just sent me over something, but if you're gonna give me a proposal, I think it should be completely professionally done instead of highlighting some different stuff they're gonna take out. So I'm gonna request that they give us a little better, no, they did great, they have done awesome, but I have a hard time, it's gonna be a hard time explaining it to you if you have to deduce yourself that this should be taken out, because we're asking for a special pricing. We have different, they're coming to us with different options. You know, I asked for an option of just to house our animals, so that our law enforcement will get a chance to just take them and have someplace to take them. I asked them for what it would look like for not 24/7. I asked to see what we can afford, and so they've come back with a couple of different options. And I just need to clean up that a little bit more. Their person that handles all that was on vacation and just came back, so they're gonna clean it up a little bit more. Then I figured we'll sit with Mark one more time and just make sure we're all, and then bring it to the commission.
Yeah, that's awesome. So are you including the city in on that too, or are they gonna do their own thing? Because I know they just hired, but I've also, I like watching their meetings because you learn a lot. But they hired one person, I think, but it's full. So they would like to have, I know, so there's some issues over there too.
This might be a completely different option. One,
I don't know that I wanna
no, there's a
go down that road.
yeah, there's a disconnect that keeps happening, and sometimes I've learned in life, if the piece doesn't fit, it may be the wrong piece.
Right.
So we'll see. I'm not closing the door on anything. I wanna bring you guys options, and I'm not making any decisions, that's for sure. But with the options that we've just been looked at, there's some possibilities that there may be a much simpler, easier way to go about this.
Cheaper?
And that's what I would love, much cheaper, and that's what I would love to show you if we can. But I need to have it very specific, because then, even if something like that does happen, it has to go through their organization to get it approved with the other entities, of which we become part of an entity, if we were to do this. So there's a few different options to look at, but I hope to have something for you very shortly.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm glad, thank you for doing this, by the way.
I'm actually taking a trip, just to let the commissioners know, I'm taking a trip with our auditor up to Snohomish County on
I think it's the 7th, isn't it?
7th of February.
Yep.
So we're gonna go up there and look at their, how they handle animal control in Snohomish County. It actually falls underneath the auditor's office, which is interesting, but yeah.
Yeah,
But one of the beauties about that, though, just is taking the information from every aspect, so we can make. I have no problem with that, just so you know, because I'd like to hear what you say, what they come up with. I do believe we're going to end up in this other direction. I'm hoping that because of the costs and everything else. But again, let's bring it all together and then we'll find out.
And the infrastructure that they already have established at that organization
Yes.
is nice. So Mark Ziegler from the city is also coming, so maybe it'd be a good opportunity to talk about.
Everybody's looking for options and stuff like that. One option also may be working with them with this. The problem that they have is economy of scale. It costs them a lot to try and do this because their scale is so small. But if they were included in ours, that we work with them, they may be able to afford it and everybody, but again, I'm not gonna speak for them because we have to take care of us first. And if they wanna work with us partners, I would love to entertain it, but right now, we're all doing our own thing.
Yeah, and we're also gonna start our county city meetings up again, so it'll be the mayor, the two administrators and myself. So that'll be cool too, because we can't do things if we're trying to work it separately.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to kind of stay in touch with what's going on at the city and for them to keep in touch with what's going on at the county, and I look forward to that. So thank you for reaching out and setting those up.
Came from Eric.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Eric was the instigator on that
Oh,
one.
okay.
The mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
So that's all I have for you guys. We went a little bit over what we planned, only an hour.
Man, I'm sure glad you can't hear my stomach.
I'm used to Jen, so.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn. Oh, wait, any calendar issues or anything?
Oh, and do we want to discuss the PAC
Candidates.
or do we want to let that sit for a bit?
You can do
I wouldn't
either-
mind.
I can do either way. We'll talk about them a little bit, I guess, right now. First of all, I think they're both excellent candidates. I have two concerns. One has a little more knowledge, but I do worry that personal issues may come into play, and I don't know that, I don't know how to answer that question without asking them to talk to them. The other one didn't have as much knowledge, but seemed to be very, very smart and intelligent. If we choose him, and I would lean to choose him at this moment, we need to find a way to bring her in, because she's brilliant. I can tell just sitting with her, she is brilliant. We just have to work with her a little bit to make sure that what she's hoping to do is the same as what the county's trying to do. So that would be my selection if I was to pick today, would be the gentleman up on the wall. But she's brilliant. We need to have her keep within us, even if we choose.
Well, and then I know the issue that she was talking about too, and it is definitely one that either we as a commission need to address or, but, I don't know. Right now, we didn't hear from Joel, and he was scheduled, so we do have that one
Well,
applicant.
I know him personally, and if you wanted to wait, the one thing I know about him is, I know him because of the community, he's everywhere. Not political, he's that worker. You go to a football game, he's working the concession stand, then he's going up and doing the voice box, and this is just what he does. You go to a fundraiser for whatever event that's happening, him and his wife are the ones that are actually behind the things, putting it all on. His kids are the same too, brilliant, and so somehow, that's just what they do. Does he have any knowledge of property? I have no idea, I'm just telling you, that man is a huge worker. And he's very well respected. Everybody really likes him and cares about him.
Well, maybe we could have Cammie reach out and see if there was, because I want to provide him the opportunity to interview if he's still interested.
Well, how do you feel?
I'd like to hear from the third guy as well,
Okay.
Joel.
Do you have any comments of the ones that we looked at, or either one of you, what are you thinking?
I'd like to
When
interview
you
Joel.
smile, I get so nervous, I don't know what to think.
That's good, I'm glad. Don't be afraid.
If it was between the two that we talked to, I would go with, what was it? It wasn't Tristan, it was
Trenton?
Trevin?
Trevin?
Well,
the gentleman on.
If I'm the one that you have to rely on for
Zoom.
names, you are all
Yeah,
in trouble.
Trevin, yeah, right.
But it was Trevin, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Trevin.
Yeah,
But I'd like to hear from the third guy.
yeah,
Okay.
See if we can't get that set up then.
okay.
Just scheduling wise, Martin Luther King Day is the 20th.
Right.
So we will not have a briefing on the 20th, but we will have a regular meeting on the 21st, and then the 27th. So,
Yeah, so do we have any calendar updates between now and 21st? Well, I'm going to the casino tonight to watch the Vikings and the Rams play, so if
Of course you
others wanna. So, we're
I will
gonna
be
make a party.
in training the week of the 27th, just to let you
Oh,
guys
yes,
know.
that's
I'll
right.
come and give you guys an update on that.
I'll be out at Fire District 12 tonight.
They're
I'll
not
be
gonna
leaving
watch the
like
game?
at 2 o'clock. More physical torture.
Yeah.
That'll be twice a week the next 2 weeks. and
Oh.
Then it goes up to 3 times a week. So
Yeah.
Great group of people out there. They've sure done wonders.
Yep.
They'd like to be proud of.
Oh, I'm also on, I could have possible jury duty. So, just a heads up, hopefully.
they'll never let you serve.
Yeah, but they'll make you waste your time.
Yeah.
Together, they won't let you serve.
They always do. You always get excited. I used to get really excited to go in there and like, oh, I'm gonna get to serve on a jury, and then they'd go in there and they'd say, yeah, Mr. Neary. Yeah, we're kicking. Yeah, one of the attorneys would kick us out just because we know too much. Maybe I don't know.
I just always remember Skip Anderson. He was a Belfair guy. He passed away some years ago. He hated doing the jury, and his answer was really simple. When they would ask him, he says, "Listen, if they weren't guilty, they wouldn't have been arrested."
Oh, jeez.
He was done.
Yeah.
I've used that before too.
Yeah.
Being married to a cop.
Yeah, so I got
And
a
then
few more.
Oregon
I got MACECOM tomorrow, 3:00.
Oh, yeah, 'cause-
And then be speaking to the Republican Women's group of Mason County Wednesday night at 6. Excuse me, that should have
It's
been
on the
canceled. That's been
22nd.
moved to the 22nd, so
Yeah.
that is no longer the case.
And I won't be at that one.
Then signature verification training for
Yep.
elections.
Steady up.
Yeah.
But nothing we're gonna bump into each other though, huh?
I don't think
Nothing
so.
new?
Yeah. That's it.
Great.
Cool.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.
Chemo time.
That was fun.